Bears beats Battlestar Galactica.
You really adopted the dark. I was born in it.
Sounds like somebody's got a case of the Mondays.
Bazinga.
2 in the box. Ready to go.
Meet me fast.
Take it slow.
Cool.
And we're recording. Welcome to the Mt.Geekmore podcast, your favorite podcast where we come to talk, debate, and argue your top 4 Mount Rushmores of your world, your favorite pop culture subjects. Today's pop culture subject, get ready, y'all, because we're going to go video game geek on you. The best PlayStation 2 games.
Yes.
I wish I had a sound effect for the PlayStation. That's what I was trying to do for the last 10 minutes when I couldn't get it. I am Nary Science. With me, as usual, is Jeff.
Hello.
And we have Dave.
Howdy.
All right. That's the second time he said that. And now we have the Boner coming back. How you guys doing, man?
What's up, y'all?
All right. So, PlayStation 2, man. I am, I believe, the oldest. The Boner, I'm 38. How old are you?
I will be 37 this year.
All right, so yeah, I'm the oldest of the group. So this,
when's your birthday?
September.
June 30th. Yeah, so you are older than me. Okay.
Are you talking to me?
I'm 38 also. No, you, Neri. Yeah, I'm 38 also.
But I know when your birthday is, buddy. I know it's in February. I got you. I know when your birthday is. Mine's in September.
Oh, I thought you were. Oh, okay.
No.
I'm just gonna drink.
Yeah, so I'm the oldest. So this is within our wheelhouse of we were the perfect age for this system. Which, by the way, for those of you who don't know, it is the greatest selling video game console of all time. I found out in my research of these games. How did you guys make your selections? Because there is a giant library of games. How did you guys make your selections? Dave?
Who? Okay.
Yeah. Thanks for calling someone out by name.
Next time I'm just gonna say,
bitch.
Yeah.
Well, you're looking blankly into a screen, and we're all looking right back at you. So
somebody's wearing their ovaries on the outside today.
Thank you. I noticed.
Is there any way to kick him out of his own Zoom? Wait for that to happen. Jesus. Dave, how did you make your picks?
So I kind of just went back and thought about some of the games that I really enjoyed, and it was really easy because I still haven't finished unpacking. I moved less than a year ago, and so I went to the box that had all my PlayStation 2 games, and I kind of just flipped through them, and I was like, oh, I really like this, and I really like this one. And any ones that I couldn't remember, I kind of went online. I searched a couple games up. I kind of made a self-imposed rule that I didn't want to go with any game that wasn't initially released on the PlayStation 2 first. So if it was later ported to another system, or if it was released concurrently on another system, it was cross-platform, that was okay. However, I didn't end up going with any of those games. I went with games that were released solely on the PlayStation, at least at first.
All right. The Bona, what did you do?
This one was really tough for me at first, and so I ended up implementing a rule very similar to Dave's, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to make it to where it has to have been released on PlayStation 2 first, and that eliminated a handful of cross-platform games and one game that was actually released on another system first that I played on PlayStation 2. But when it was all said and done, I actually ended up with 4 games that were exclusively PS2 unless they were later remastered and released on another system. So I just I did the same type of thing, man. I went with, just games that I remembered loving and that I remembered just having a huge impact on me, like that I just genuinely enjoyed playing, that I couldn't wait till I got home from work and get these things fired up. And I also just tried to look at things that told a really great story, and that there's one that I'm sure a lot of people, if not everybody but me, has on their list that didn't make mine because while it's a game I thoroughly enjoyed watching a buddy of mine play, when I played it personally, I got frustrated, so it didn't make my mountain. So I just kind of went with the ones that stuck with me, the ones that I'll always remember as telling great stories.
NBA Street's not for everyone, DeBona. Sorry.
NFL Blitz, we get it. All right, Jeff.
No, I love Blitz now.
Yeah, it's a fucking great one.
You don't
Jeff,
remember Street though? Yeah, but anyway.
I had FIFA Street too.
Yes.
What?
And then you had NFL Street.
They
Yeah.
have FIFA Street? I'm not a soccer guy at all, like in any way, shape, or form, so I would not know about
Yeah,
that
they
game.
had FIFA Street, NFL Street, and the basketball
Yeah, NBA Street.
Yep. So for me,
okay. Sorry.
no, go ahead.
No,
Say
I
what
was just
you
gonna
were
mention in the topic of soccer. One of the soccer games, I forget which one it is now, was the last game to be made for the PlayStation 2. I forgot which one it is, but I learned that earlier today in my.
It was
research.
either PES or Pro Evolution Soccer or FIFA. Those are pretty much
Yeah.
true.
Probably FIFA, like World Cup.
I don't think it was FIFA because I would have remembered that one. Everything.
I think it was probably Pro Evolution.
Yeah. So Jeff.
So for me, originally I had said in the chat, I said that I'm not holding it to it being a PlayStation exclusive. I had two on my list from the get-go. One, it ended up being that 3 out of my 4 are PlayStation exclusives when it was all said and done. The one that is not is a game that is near and dear to my heart, so much so that I rebought it when they did a remaster of it on PlayStation, on PS4. So I currently have it on my system and played it recently. And I feel like it's a game that needs to be talked about. It's been on lists, but they're really high on lists. But I personally, my list, so I personally love it. I got one that may be controversial, but I don't give a fuck. And then my honorable mentions are a lot of games that aren't going to make the top 10, but God, did I fucking love them.
That's how my honorable mention list ended up being too. Like, let me just put it on record that I love these games.
Right. So that's the way I did it. What about you, Neri?
I did it. This was a difficult list for me because here's the thing. While I was of the right age, most of my time, first of all, I didn't buy a PlayStation 2 probably until 4 years after PS2 came out. Because of the poor thing. And the system was out for like 7 years before the PS3 came out. So pretty much like well over half of the, like I literally bought it and like 2 years later, like we got a PS3. I'm like, motherfucker. And so I couldn't, so I had to wait to buy the PS3 as well. But the PS2, when I did buy it, I was remembering a lot of sports games, and I don't put those in my mountain, and I'll talk about that for reasons, other reasons. But the games that I do remember playing, I'm like, oh, okay, I got 4. So that's pretty much how I made my selection, is the 4 that I remember playing that were sports games. And then here's the thing, I wanted to be able to say that I played, if the games did have a story mode, I want to be able to say if I played the whole thing through. Because that was kind of my thing. I'm like, there's a lot of games that I liked, even though the same franchises of what I put, but if I didn't finish the game, I obviously didn't like it enough. Like there was something wrong there. So that's how I made my list.
Okay.
All right. So let's start off
With the 4th pick.
Number 4. Round 4.
I'm in no mood for your wives' crap. Let's get it on.
All right, number 4. We got Dave. What do we have for number 4?
Number 4 for me is a very early one in the PS2's history. It's a little game called Devil May Cry.
Honorable mention.
This is a game that I got the PS2. I think it was Christmas of 2001. Either Christmas 2001, Christmas 2002, something like that. I was in high school, so that it was my freshman year of high school. I was a little younger than I am, obviously.
Oh wow, you're way younger than.
Yeah, I'm 32.
Okay.
I look like shit, but I'm younger than you guys are.
He's 32 going on 70.
No, you look great.
So it was a little bit of a chore to get my parents to agree to get me this game. Because I grew up in a very conservative house, and the game was rated M. There was a whole bunch of satanic stuff in the game, and
in the title.
Yeah,
it's literally the first word in the title.
So I sold it to
Diablo.
like, listen, this is the fight against the devil. How can you be against that? And so my dad, who cared a whole lot less than my mom did, kind of relented, and he took me and got the game for me. The game was, for me, and I have read that it was for the industry, fairly revolutionary because of the very quick gameplay that it had. It's a hack and slash game, but you are in the same sort of like quick, fast-paced God of War style. Like, you're basically an unstoppable force gameplay. That all goes back to Devil May Cry. And the way that you had each and every single combat scenario rated, where you went from dull to stylish, and it was all based on like the number of combinations that you got over and over, how many red orbs, which is pretty much like the currency in the game, you picked up along the way, how infrequently you got hit, if at all those things kind of, and it drove you to want to become a better player. It wasn't just getting through the story, which was fairly interesting. It was also the incredible gameplay. The graphics at the time were, I thought, like revolutionary. I was playing this thing and I'm like, whoa, this is something completely different. And of course, this being really early in the PlayStation 2's history, it looked great at that time. But I mean, you compare that to Devil May Cry 3, which came out later, and it's, you know.
I was gonna say they had the first 3 on PS2. Right?
Yeah, first 3 were PS2, and I mean, you can't compare it. A system that's on, like, you know, its last legs, where they've really explored every nook and cranny of its what it's capable of. You really can't compare it. So it doesn't look as good as some of the later PS2 games do. But I remember putting it in for the first time and just being absolutely blown away. I love the dark, demonic look to everything, especially when you get to the final boss after you've been fighting your way through hell, which looks exactly how you would imagine it would look. You come through to this like huge, like Gothic cathedral that's all there's marble flooring. It's very, very weird. It's jarring. It was a really, really interesting game. I love the art design. I love the gameplay. For me, is really what sold it, and just the general tone. My favorite thing about Devil May Cry, it didn't make my list. My favorite thing about Devil May Cry was the influence that it had on video games as a whole. Like you were talking about it being very influential. That addition of a Y-axis to a hack and slash was huge. I played hack and slash for years, Dynasty Warriors, things like that, but it was always just moving forward into groups of guys. Just that whole concept of okay, well they're up here now and they're down there, and there were so many things that the rating system has played out in a lot of games since then. Mm-hmm. And it did a lot for what people thought you could get out of a hack and slash game, and it told a very good story. It's not on my list, but I can't be mad at the pick.
Yeah, and what I love about that game too is the way that I compare Dante is to like Blade. Because he's got the sword, but then he pulls out. I forgot he had names for him, and I can't remember the names for him right now.
His Colt 45s.
Yeah, and so you could just switch between just blasting demons with dual wielding fucking John Wick fucking style to taking out the sword, mowing people down. Like it was such a fun game, and like you said, you would replay levels just to try to get your rating higher. Like, oh, maybe if I do this little parry this way, or do this, or do that, I could get a better rating. It's not on my list either. It's an honorable mention, but I love the Devil May Cry series, and the first one it's the Pioneer. Yeah, so
right.
I can't.
To me, it's the one that also had like the most elements of horror in it.
Yeah,
the idea that you're stranded on this island in this Gothic castle, and your main enemies are these marionette puppets that become possessed. I mean, that's like scary in itself, but the atmosphere, I think it got 100% right. That was something I thought was missing in the second one that was on that like whatever Mediterranean village.
Yeah.
And to me, there was something missing in that one that they just nailed in that first one.
And he kept his shirt off for I think all of Devil May Cry 1. Because I think it was 3 where he's like literally shirtless fighting everybody.
Well, if I look like Dante, I might too.
But no,
There
it's
you
a
go.
solid pick, man.
Thank you.
Never played it. All right.
You should, man.
Just a little bit of trivia about the Devil May Cry series that's fascinating. It's not PlayStation 2, but Devil May Cry 5, the opening sequence of the game is you getting your ass handed to you by who ends up being the final boss, and losing that fight actually sets up the entire game. You can actually win the very first fight in Devil May Cry 5 that sets up the entire game, and it just ends.
No shit.
Yeah, it's ridiculously hard, but I've seen it done, and the game just ends. It doesn't give you like it doesn't give you like a cool scene or anything. It's just like a sign that says the end.
Well, that's like Far Cry 4.
I
Like,
thought it was 3, but yeah, you may be right.
Was it 3?
I think so.
I think it's. Is it
When they go to
because the
Tibet.
last one-
When
no,
they go to Tibet.
4 Tibet, I think.
All right.
But either way, that's one of the Far Cry.
But it's the one where he goes to Tibet. It's the one where he goes to Tibet for his dad.
Yeah.
I
They
forget
go
which one
to
it is.
Tibet with his dad, and the main bad guy, he tells you, hang out here for a second. I need to go do something. If you literally hang out there, he takes you to bury I think it's your mother's urns or your father's urn.
Father's
to this
ashes.
waterfall.
Yeah.
His ashes, and the game ends. But if you leave,
But you
then
have
it
to wait a
starts
while. You have to wait a little.
Yeah, you have to wait like 20 minutes.
Yeah, you have to wait a while. Like I remember, because he goes, just wait here and I'll be back, and I didn't know that the gameplay had started, so I'm playing the game and I'm like, all right, and then like 5 minutes later I'm like, can I move? Is this still part of the fucking recording? Is this still part of the yeah, it's a thing. And so
and what's it's interesting that you're going to see that in a game we're going to talk about later that's on my mountain, where they do a lot of those little trick things that are fun that I'll mention later on, but just keep that in mind. But PlayStation games, a lot of the games have those little things, I think more so than other systems that I've played. So, but yeah, dude, Devil May Cry is fucking fantastic.
And to believe that this was going to be the next Resident Evil, it was going to be Resident Evil 4, and Capcom said, "No, it doesn't feel right. Let's really lean into this, demonic possession thing." I think they nailed it.
Nailed it. All right, DeBono, what did you pick for number 4?
So for my number 4, I went with a game that it's not super hard, but it is a game that's actually a sequel that took a very solid groundwork laid by the first one and turned it into a story worth telling, not just a bunch of childhood like goofiness. And my number 4 is Kingdom Hearts 2.
That's the game that I mentioned in our chat that I never got into the series.
And like I said, I know that like all y'all, or at least all your wives, are like big Disney folks. I thought for sure this was going to be across the board. Everybody would have it somewhere.
I'm a huge Disney fan, but I never actually played this game.
So
I've seen the whole game played because Stephanie's a big fan of the series. And I can say I think the second one is better.
Well, and it's because the first one was a lot of fun to play, but it was really just, hey, check it out. You get to go on an adventure with all these Disney characters, and we'll let you go to all these places. And the story was lacking at best with a decent kind of ending. Kingdom Hearts 2, they really took the ball and ran with it, and they created what ended up being a very, very good story. It created a very deep mythology into the Kingdom Hearts universe, which if you play Kingdom Hearts, there's been a billion. Technically, Kingdom Hearts 3 is the one that recently came out, but they've done prequels and semi-sequels and Kingdom Hearts 2.5 and just all sorts of stuff, because this one created a very, very deep mythology for what exists within this world other than just planets that belong to different Disney movies. And so while the excitement of going and getting to have Beast on your team is rad as shit, and God, he was so cool. Like, you got these special abilities that you could build up where whichever Disney character would go and do something wild, and you semi-controlled them, and the one with Beast was incredible. But the story was just fantastic, and it really cemented Kingdom Hearts as having a great mythology to the Keyblades. and to the entire world that exists. And it was a lot of fun. It never felt super tedious when I was trying to 100% it. The very first one, you had to find all 101 Dalmatians. That was nothing but tedious. In this one, all of the missions that you had to do to fill your little storybook to 100% it, which I did, were a lot of fun. You get to fight Sephiroth from Final Fantasy VII, and he's an insane badass, like harder than anything else in the entire game. And so you get to do these things where and one of the things you have to do to 100% the game is you get an epic battle against Sephiroth. But one of the other things you have to do to 100% the game is there's this mini game where Winnie the Pooh gets his head stuck in a honey jar, and you've got to spin it super fast so that you throw him like a certain distance when his head pops out. And the worlds you visit are just great. The characters,
you go to Halloween Town in this.
You go to Halloween Town in this one. Jack Sparrow's in this one. There's a whole. You go to the Little Mermaid world, and it completely changes the game type. It becomes a rhythm game, and you're having to tap out tap out notes in Sebastian's Symphony in time, like a rock band game. Mm-hmm. And so it was a ton of fun to play. You've got it's the introduction of Roxas on top of having Sora, who ends up being vital to the Kingdom Hearts mythology. It told a very compelling story about the Heartless and everything involved with it. Just some wonderful characters. It was the first time when you got the different suits, and each one kind of changed the way that you had to fight completely. And you could switch between the Keyblades, and it affected everything that you did, depending on how you would use magic and how you would do this and that. It revolutionized the way that RPGs, like full-blown RPGs, were played. And even now, with going at Final Fantasy VII Remake is coming out, and the gameplay on that demo is very similar to Kingdom Hearts gameplay. It was the precursor to Dark Souls and things like that, where you had to be perfect in what you did because the game punished you brutally for mistiming something. But it was just hard enough that it was still a lot of fun. And like I said, it was also just great to get to interact with all these characters from when you were a kid.
Now, I will tell you this. So I did go to GameStop a while back, and I said I'd never played. I played it like briefly, like at a friend's house once. I ended up picking up the set that they came out with, that it was every one of those. It's like Kingdom Hearts Remix, Kingdom Hearts Superfly, Kingdom, like it's just every fucking, it's like
365 by 2 days.
Yeah. The only thing it didn't come with was Kingdom Hearts 3, and I started playing 1, and I mean, I was kind of digging it because I can appreciate what it is. I just never went back to it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm not going to. I mean, I'm stuck at home now. Even though Final Fantasy VII's coming in the mail, the 7's coming in the mail next week, but I can't knock you for that pick because I can see and appreciate what they're trying to do with it, and the fact that it's kind of cool that you're able to interact with these Disney characters. You're able to do these things like you're talking about the Beast. Like hell yeah, you want the Beast? The Beast is gonna freaking murder everybody. I can understand and appreciate people's love of it. I'm starting to get into it. I might be very late to the party, but
like I said, man, one was all right, and one they were like, all right, we kind of have an idea for something. But like I said, when you get into 2, it's really the story in 2 that puts it well over the top. Because like I said, the addition of Roxas ends up being huge. Just remember when you start, to anybody listening, not just Jeff, who may have never played Kingdom Hearts 2. 1, you can play Kingdom Hearts 2 without really playing Kingdom Hearts 1, and you're not that much in the dark. 2, when it starts, it's super weird. And trust me, even when knowing everything about the game, when I started it, I still had no idea what was going on. Just settle in and just understand that the beginning of the game is not telling of how great it gets. It's a very weird beginning, but it all comes full circle and makes sense.
I like it.
Never played that one. All right. I don't.
Why don't you just tell us when you have played one?
Yeah.
Well, he's not. I guarantee you, he hasn't played what my number 4 is.
I just RPG games don't do it for me. And I didn't even know about Kingdom Hearts until well after it had come out. Like I didn't even know about the franchise. I'm very. I don't know. I'm stupid. I'm stubborn in my ways because anytime I see anything that's kind of like anime, I'm fucking out. I'm like, this doesn't interest me. I'm out. It just I have little to no interest in it. But everybody raves about it. Everybody raves about it.
It's a cartoonish style of animation and stuff like that. But yeah, man, it's a blast. It's a blast.
All right, Dave. Oh, sorry, Dave. Jeff.
Okay, so my number 4 is the only one that it actually came out for Xbox like 20 days before it came out for PlayStation. It's a game that I hold near and dear to my heart. It's called Psychonauts.
Oh, okay. Now, Psychonauts was on my list, and I only took it off because, oh, hell yes. I love Double Fine. I only took Psychonauts off because it was released on Xbox first.
Okay. Well, you can talk about it. I figured if anybody had played it, it was Debona. That was so Psychonauts. It was the director of the game was Tim Schafer, which if you don't know that name, you will know when I tell you that he was from LucasArts and he created. Oh yeah, look there it is. He created Monkey Island. He created Sam and Max. He worked on Full Throttle.
Classic.
This game is actually based off of a scene that they were going to put in Full Throttle. Which, if you don't know Full Throttle, it's the biker gang game. Which I also picked up when they released it on PlayStation.
I was going to say that there's a high def remake. Which
I've already played through it like 3 times. So there was supposed to be a scene where the main character drinks peyote or takes peyote, and he goes into the psychedelic dream world. They didn't do it in the game, so when he left LucasArts, he put it into this game. The premise of the game, for those of you that have never heard of it, is that you play this guy named Rasputin. That he escaped the circus because this isn't a world of psychics. So he escaped the circus because his family does not agree with his powers. They shun him for it. So he goes to this camp that is run by psychics that they train kids to learn their psychic abilities and become secret agents and spies. While he's at this camp, he finds out that there is, and trust me, the game is good when I tell you this. There's an evil dentist who's trying to collect the brains of all the psychic kids to create a machine to be able to take over the world. It's a 3D platformer. Rasputin's an acrobat, so he does a lot of swinging, a lot of jumping, double jumps, flips, stuff like that. The cool part about this game is that, so you go to this camp, you're basically a camper, and as you gain abilities, you start getting merit badges on your backpack. And then what happens is that what the levels are, you go into people's brains and their minds.
Which is the absolute piece of this puzzle that makes it perfect, because every level is so different because you're inside the mind of someone insane.
Exactly. So what happens is that
you're inside the membrane of somebody who's insane?
Ayo.
So what happens is that you're going through your counselor's brains, and there's different things that are going on. What's a kind of deeper thing about the game is there's an insane asylum that's across the lake from the camp. You actually go there and you go into the brains of those insane people. So there's a lot of symbolism of bipolar disorder that you're dealing with, of nightmares, of past experiences that are like torturing people, schizophrenia. You're actually dealing with the physical embodiment of these things in the game. And it's just such a fun 3D platformer, and at the same time, you go into these worlds, and the only kind of negative is that the imagery is kind of similar. And when you go into the dream world, it does put a twist to it, but the animation's kind of similar to the real world, but the scenarios that you're put into, like you go to a funeral in one of the
there's one, I think it may be the art teacher. You go and their entire mind is like velvet paintings.
Yes.
And so, and
then there was somebody that it was like this 1970s, that teacher, that counselor, that's she's dressed like a 1970s like Austin Powers chick.
Yes.
And you go in and it's like like that scene in the Austin Powers when they're at the party. Then between like the shots of the movie, like that's her brain. She's living in that
awesome.
world. Like,
it's a lot of fun to play without being super hard. Like you never really get frustrated with it. Again, like so many of the things that we're going to talk about, the story is just incredible.
Yeah, and it ended up being released on PC, on Linux. I think it was like it got released on like 5 or 6 different types of consoles or systems. It came out in 2005. It's definitely, I've seen it on lists, but it's in the 50s and 60s. Like I said, it holds a special place in my heart. I replayed this game easily 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
I told you I repicked it up when it was available because I absolutely love this game, and I highly recommend some folks to play it. You're stuck in quarantine, probably still even when this episode comes out, given the state. But I think it should be available on the PlayStation.
No, I think the quarantine's going to be done by Easter, right? That's what somebody had said. Somebody had said.
Oh yeah,
Easter.
like actually, you're listening to this out of quarantine.
Yes.
I think is how that's going to work out.
That's true. The world's being rebuilt by now.
Isn't it the way? Isn't it the way it happens? If you just say it enough times, it just creates it. Isn't that what happens? I mean, that's what
got elected.
That's what one of the leaders. That's what one of the leaders of the world said. So I mean, I guess it must be true.
So my number 4 is Psychonauts.
And I like I said, can't be mad at it. It was on my list of 20. That was what I started narrowing down, and it was one of the first ones that fell because it was released on Xbox first.
Well, and that's the thing. So the reason that I picked it was because I played it on PlayStation.
There we go.
So I played the game on PlayStation. So to me, it's a PlayStation game.
There we go.
So that's where that's why it's on my list.
Mm-hmm. Right on, man. My number 4 is this is difficult for me because I'm swapping my number 4 and my number 3. So my number 4 is Hitman 2: Silent Assassin. Yeah.
Those Hitman games are so fucking fun.
They are fun.
I love those fucking games.
They just get more fun and more ridiculous every time.
Oh my god! So every time they came, the only thing I didn't like was what they did recently, where they made it like episodic. I was like, just give me a fucking full game.
Yeah,
like,
I agree. And I bought that fucking episodic bullshit.
I know you lent it to me.
I know. They're like episode 3. I'm like, fuck you, just give me the fucking game. I think by now the full game has come out though. I think by now I'm not.
Oh no, yeah. They haven't. They stopped. That was like a year ago, wasn't it?
That was way longer than a year ago. I bought it when it first came out, and it was like way long. In fact, I could look
the
it up.
newest one.
Yeah, I think it came out 2016. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I had read that while reading for this one, for Hitman 2. So Hitman 2, I got introduced to the Hitman franchise with Hitman 2. I did not know about Hitman, the game. Like, I just didn't play it. I just never got into it. And then Hitman 2, I don't know how I got introduced to this game, to be honest with you. It had to be a friend or something. I don't know what the fuck happened. And then I started playing it, and I was like, "This game is crazy amount of fun." I loved it. This is one of the games where it's not the best one in the franchise. Like, part 2 is not my favorite in the franchise because PS3 would have done it, but it doesn't matter. But because on PS2 when I played it, it was so much fun that I went back to play the original. I was like, "Oh, they have a part 1? Okay, I'll go back to play that one." And I did that, and it was a lot of fun. Basically, you're an assassin, and there's a story mode, but the whole basic idea, not to bore the listeners, like, you kill people. There's different ways of killing them. You have contracts out for certain people, and your goal is to either kill them quietly. That's the first priority, is to get them to kill them without anybody else noticing or without there being a ruckus. And then sometimes you would kill them, and then the newspaper comes out the next day of like, there was a bloodbath in the opera, and you're like, oh shit, my bad. Did I kill too many people? I killed too many people. That's my bad. That's my bad.
Hitman's one of those games that, and it's been a while since I played Hitman 2, so I don't remember exactly what they introduced versus what was later introduced in the games. But the idea of all the options that you have is just such a phenomenal fucking thing for me. In that it's like, oh, you could walk in with kill the clown and wear the clown's costume and walk in there and fucking do that or be a waiter or be this or.
Yeah, I think it was Hitman 2. There was one of my favorites was you could like carjack this florist on his way to the person's house and then like deliver the flowers. So like they just let you walk it like in Terminator 2, like shotgun hit in the flowers.
Fantastic.
I love that shit, man. I love every Hitman game I've enjoyed thoroughly. The one thing I will say is that it's a relatively short game. I was able to finish it rather quickly, and I'm maybe 8 hours, 10 hours gameplay, which is not a big game at all. So that's the only knock on it, which would be the only reason I moved it down from my number 3 to my number 4. That's why I called out Autobots, because I was like, it's a relatively short game. I will say that for the short game that it is, before I get my number 3, for the shortness that it is, it's much better. It's a much better game than my number 3. But because it's such a short game, I moved it down to my number 4.
I was just looking it up just to kind of refresh my memory of the different missions, and somebody actually wrote, this seems like more of an expansion than an actual game.
Yeah.
Which goes along with what you're saying, that it's short.
Yeah, it's a short game, man.
I always thought that the genius of the Hitman series was that you could, if you were good enough or patient enough with Hitman, you could play that entire game and never kill anybody that there wasn't a contract on.
Oh, and that's what you try to do. Once you're done with the mission, they allow you to replay it and be like, do you want to go back and be like, let's see if I could just kill this one dude that you're supposed to get a contract for.
Yeah, and so and later things similar to that, like not Assassin's Creed is its own thing, but like it was that whole thing, like can I just kill the person that like I'm trying to kill? Like, can I get to them without any collateral damage? And that was, I remember Hitman 2 being like the first game where it was like you just it's like, wait, I don't just kick in the door and kill everybody. What is happening?
Yeah, you gotta. And to me, I'm always that dude where I'm like sneaking around, right? And I would always try to walk as slowly as possible. And like the moment you bump a table or like there's one bad guy that kind of goes, huh? You just start shooting up the fucking room. Like it's like that one bump on the table, and somebody goes, huh? And then I just take out and just
good effort.
And I guess I gotta shoot up the place, right? There was one level where it was at somebody's house. It was in a neighborhood, and there was one level where there was a tree house. And I literally sat in the treehouse and killed every single fucking guard that the guy had. Because when you kill one person, you just leave the body there, and then the fucking guards would be like, huh, oh my God. It alerts more guards. And I just sat there waiting for more guards to be alerted. And I just killed every single one.
Just a pile of guard bodies.
It was literally a fucking pile of, it was just a pile of fucking black suits.
That sounds like if it was like Val Kilmer's Secret Agent, Top Secret. That's what it fucking sounds like. Just
and I remember thinking to myself, because I tried to beat that level by just killing and I always got fucking snagged. Always. There was like, I couldn't find a way into the house without getting fucking snagged. And then I was like, I'm just going to kill every I literally just sat there and just killed every bodyguard, every maid, every gardener, everybody that fucking came within the area. And then by the time I killed the guy, there was nobody else left to kill. There was fucking nobody else by the time I killed the contract. It was fantastic.
And a current gen version of Hitman, I think it was called Agent 52 or something like that. The one before the episodic one. There was one where I literally just one time, just to see if I could, I killed the target by collapsing the second floor down onto the first floor and killing a ballroom full of people.
Mission complete.
They can never tell it was a hit. No. Too many people.
I love games that make you like ask questions like that. Like, can I do this?
Yeah. The one before the episodic one was in 2012, which was Absolution, and then the one before that was Blood Money, which to me, Blood Money is one of the best fucking ones.
Maybe it was the episodic one. Then maybe they gave me like the first episode of it for free 1 month or something. It may have been the episodic one.
Because I know the first mission of the episodic one is that you have to go to that like art show or like that. Like a fashion show or something like that.
Yeah, that was it. That was a fashion show. You can actually just explode like the second floor and drop it on everyone.
I didn't know you could do that. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I know that I played that game once and I walked in where the models are. They're like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like,
punch you in the face. Started punching model.
Punch.
Chris Brown. What?
Oh, he had a reason. So Hitman 2, Silent
Wow.
Silent Assassin. So the number 4s are Devil May Cry, Kingdom Hearts 2, Psychonauts, and Hitman 2, Silent Assassin.
Round 3.
3 is a magic number. Yes, it is.
All right, Dave, what do we got for number 3, man?
My number 3 is reminding me to let you know that another thing that went into making my list was I only picked one from a series. Because
Devil May Cry 2.
Electric Boogaloo.
My number 3 is Grand Theft Auto Vice City.
That table.
Okay.
All right.
I knew somebody was going to have it.
All right, Demona?
My number 3 is a game that I feel like it's a game that whenever you talk to people that are really hardcore into the PlayStation 2, that they know this game and that they love this game. But I feel it's a game that in America did not get a ton of sales, possibly because the North American box art was just terrible. But this is a game that is near and dear to my heart. I absolutely love it. And it's a game called Ico.
Oh,
ICO.
Okay.
Oh, I thought you were
ICO.
going with a different one.
I thought you were going with Okami. Okay.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So Ico, Ico is a game that is very understated.
It's a great game.
It's absolutely gorgeous. It's incredible what Ico accomplishes with very little dialogue, with very little story setup. It's very immersive in the way that you play. So the quick breakdown of Ico is you're this boy named Ico, and he's born and has horns. And his village is like, that's a bad omen. You don't get to live here anymore. Bye-bye now. And so they kind of kick him out. And he comes across this castle where he finds this girl who's being imprisoned by an evil witch of a queen, and he tries to help her escape. And so the gameplay of Ico is puzzle-based. Mm-hmm. It's puzzle platforming where you not only have to find ways to get out of this castle, but you also have Ico following you, you have the girl following you. Yorda, I believe her name was. But anyway, you've got this girl following you who's not nearly as capable as you are. And so not only do you have to solve the puzzle for you, but then you also have to find a second way to solve it that allows her to get through as you're trying to come through. There's very little dialogue. There is just enough to keep you informed as to what's going on. But it's just gorgeous. And it blows me away at how involved you get and how important all three of the characters really in this game become with as little time as they put into. You're not just sitting there watching videos of them yapping at each other, which there's another game on my list that I love, but that happens a lot. It's straightforward gameplay, but it's one of those games that I will always reference if anybody ever wants to try to very foolishly have the argument with me that video games aren't an art form. Because this game accomplished a ton with not a lot in it. It's so much fun to play. It's frustratingly hard at times, but very rewarding when you do manage to solve the puzzles. It's a game that I don't always recommend to everybody. Like, it's not a game like where Kingdom Hearts 2, I'm like, yes, go play it. It's a lot of fun. You're going to love it. Ico's not for everybody. I can tell you that right now. Yeah. It's not fast paced. There are times when you're playing Ico where you literally sit down the controller and just stare at a room for like 5 minutes. Like there's no way out of here. But like I said,
Sounds
it's
like
very
my
rewarding.
Sex life.
The story is just incredible. You get very, very emotionally involved in this. From beginning to end, it keeps you entranced. And like I said, it's just just gorgeous. I can't say enough positive things about Eco. Like I said, the only negative thing I could ever say about Eco is that it's definitely not for everybody.
I would tell you this, going along with what you're saying, I think Eco's in the same ballpark as Psychonauts in that it wasn't really a commercial success, but if you look at people like Eco more than Psychonauts, because Eco, I've seen it in the top 10 on most lists that I look at, and it's a great game. I absolutely agree, but like you said, it's not for everyone. Psychonauts also was not a box office success, but it has a huge cult following. Eco, I think people are appreciating it more, though at the time it didn't have that box office success. It did, it's obviously in the top 10 in most lists that you see. Yeah. So it hit a chord with a lot of people.
This is a game I didn't hear about really until fairly recently, like in the last couple of years. I heard Dick about this game when it came out. None of my friends played it. And I can't even remember seeing this at, my local GameStop or EB Games or, wherever it was that I was going at the time.
I remember I remember finding it and not really knowing much about it, but just kind of like looking for something to play. And then just, like I said, just getting absolutely enthralled with it. I think it's now this game came out in 2001. And so I think that, I think that now I think there are a lot of people who, if they were to now go back and play Eco, would be like, wow, I'm almost upset that I missed this 19 years ago, because I do believe that there's an appeal there if you're into just the storytelling element of the game.
Right.
Yeah, I went to, they didn't have it at KB Toy Store, so I went there and they didn't have it. Also, a KB Toy Store wasn't there, so that's a weird thing. Because, fucking closed down. All right, and Jeff, what do you got for number 3?
Okay, so my number 3 came out in 2001. It's kind of, this game is polarizing in the community for this series, but I thoroughly enjoy this game, and I will talk about its faults, but my number 3 is Final Fantasy X.
Abel. As soon as you started talking, I was like, oh, I know where he's going with this. Abel.
Okay, then. What moment you hear polarizing, you know already.
All right.
Yep.
So, shit with 2 T's. 10.
Yeah,
right.
There we go. I'll tell you why it's not shit, Neri, as soon as we get to talk about it. Because there's a reason why I picked this game specifically, and it's for you, sir.
Sure. All right, so so my number 3 is a game that I don't really, not to be that guy, I haven't heard anybody else talk about this game ever. And I found it because I stumbled upon it renting it, and I was like, oh, there's nothing else to rent, and I've never heard of this game, so I just played it, and I was like, this is the most fucking fun I've ever had. I did one of those like where, oh, I'm sorry, Gamefly, I sent it back to you, I don't know what happened, sorry. And
you're gonna say Manhunt, right?
No. So it's a game that I had never heard of. It's a I believe, I thought it was a sequel, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it is. But it had a sequel on PS3, which was outright fucking garbage. And I was very disappointed with the sequel for PS3. But the game, which is my number 3, is called Mercenaries Playground of Destruction.
Bro, Mercenaries is a fun fucking game.
Mercenaries is a lot of fun.
That game, I did the same thing. That was at Blockbuster. Yeah. I was like... I rented that game and I was like, I'm going to rent this again, and I'm going to rent this again, and I'm going to rent this again.
So much fucking fun. And it's basically, you are mercenaries. They drop you off in between North and South Korea.
I don't know where this
No, it's in North and South Korea. And then they put you in the DZ zone, which deconstruction zone, I guess, I don't know what the fuck. But basically the safety zone.
Demilitarization.
Demilitarized.
That. And then they have you, and then you pick up contracts, and it's pretty much free play. Like it's what they call a sandbox game, where the world is in a sandbox, so you can do whatever you want at whatever. There's no exactly right timing of when to do it.
Expendables the game.
Pretty much, yeah, and it's fucking crazy. You could steal cars, you could steal all these, you could steal all the vehicles, you could steal, you could kill anybody. It's fucking great, man.
If you don't have rockets, you aren't playing the game right.
Yeah,
If you aren't blowing everything fucking up, you return the game. You don't know what you're doing.
This is the exact opposite of Hitman, where Hitman is like, it's calculated. It's you got to just do one job, and then there's many ways of doing that one job. And then this Mercenaries is like, look, you have a grenade launcher. Sure, you could use a pistol, but you have a grenade launcher, so we think you should probably use the grenade launcher. And it's fucking
look,
fantastic.
there's a case of extra grenades here. Maybe you should use the grenade.
I fucking love this game. It was so much fun.
That game was fun.
Yeah.
That game, I feel, is like a precursor to like Just Cause. Or
Yeah. It felt a lot like Just Cause.
Yeah. Also, I mean, even Battlefield tried to do a version of it with Bad Company, essentially, where they took that concept and made it fit the Battlefield world.
Yeah, and I played Just Cause. I think it was part 2 or 3, whichever one was on the PS4. I think it was part 3, if I'm not mistaken. And although it had those elements of fun, it was very repetitive, and like everywhere you went, you kind of did the same things. Whereas in Mercenaries wasn't. I didn't feel like it was repetitive, even though you kind of had to do similar things. I didn't feel like it was repetitive, so it was just outright fun for me. Just Cause was fun, but it kind of got old real quick. With Mercenaries, I was like, this game is fucking fun. I just had
sorry
fun.
You don't like surfing airplanes. I apologize.
No, that's cool. But when you have to surf an airplane every level, you're like, all right, I get it. I'm Tom Cruise. But yeah,
that was a fun fucking game.
I love that game.
I'm not gonna knock you for that one, man.
I honestly
that was a blockbuster one too for me, though. I never owned the game.
Yeah,
I just fucking.
My brother-in-law had that one. I'd play it over there. I never had it either.
Yeah, so even though I knew, because you guys are huge fans of the system, I knew one of you would have played it. I honestly didn't think that you guys would.
All three of us.
Yeah, you know. But Dave, did you play it? Did you? I thought.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay, right on. So yeah, so that I was not aware, because every other friend that I tell, Mercenaries, like, I've never heard of it. And again, I never heard, if it wasn't for the fact that it was just on my queue, I don't know what the fuck happened, but I was like, oh, I'll rent it. But yeah, so Mercenaries, it's called Mercenaries Playground of Destruction.
And it was third person, right? It was third person.
Yeah, third person. Most of the games I have I talked to David about this recently. I'm not a first-person shooter kind of guy. The only first-person shooter that I really ever got into was Far Cry, and that wasn't even into like Far Cry 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So it was.
I remember you got into it when because you would talk to me about it.
Yeah. And then that's when you were like, you're getting into that shit now? The fucking new one's coming out in a month. I'm like, I know, this is amazing. So our number 3s were GTA Vice City, Eco, Final Fantasy X, and Mercenaries Playground of Destruction. All right.
Round 3.
Oh, no, that was round 3, right? We did round 3 already?
Yep.
We're
on 2.
Son of a bitch, man. Of course.
We're about to drop our dues.
You know, you want to laugh? I was like, while you guys were talking, I was like, I'm going to go get ahead of the game and then put the sound cue in the right, and I just fucking put 3. Anyways, that's the whole thing.
Round 2.
Dose, the sequel to Uno.
All right, number 2s, man. David, what do you got? Drop that deuce.
My number 2 is one that came out towards the end, though not exactly the end, of the PS2's life cycle, and that is 2005's God of War.
The original?
The original, yeah. Mm-hmm. I was torn between going with 1 or 2, but I ended up going with 1 because I think that while 2 has a bigger scope in story, like it's way bigger. There's this revolution going on where Kratos wants to take down all the gods. The gods have betrayed him.
Just talk about part 1. Just talk about part 1.
Okay. Part 1 is a more personal story, and I think that more like targeted, focused story on Kratos and how he becomes the Ghost of Sparta is a better storytelling experience. the gameplay is exactly the same in both games. So for me, it really just boiled down to which one left a more lasting impression on me, and I think I got to give it to the first one. The way that the story unfolds with him plummeting to his death at the very beginning of the game, that was something that I hadn't seen in a video game before. Have been done in movies, but not in a video game. And so like right from the beginning, and then you forget that that's happened. So towards the end of the game, when he is, falling to his death, you're like, oh shit, that's right. This game started with him dying. What the fuck is going to happen here? And obviously the gameplay throughout the game is just absolutely amazing. I think without God of War, you don't have games like the Arkham games, where you're basically this unstoppable force, and the moment that you hit the block button, fuck you. You can't hit me. I'm already the fucking god. All right. It's just I felt absolutely invincible. Like most games, I would be trepidatious going into like a group of 40 bad guys. Right. Not in God of War. In God of War, no matter how big the horde of villains were, I'd go in there like, all right, dudes, I'm gonna do this fucking naked. All right. Come at me. All right. Because I'm a cock slap you all.
Which was actually in the game. He just
right.
Yeah.
Oh,
that was triangle.
That was yeah.
Like you always remember your first.
Right.
God of War, like all gamers know the story of Kratos. This game launched Kratos becoming the face of fucking PlayStation. Like I can't knock the pick. I don't agree. We will table for later, but I think it's
but it's on par for David, dude. He likes the original Terminator over T2. Like this is really on par for David.
Dave likes the origin story.
Yeah, you like the original. You like hey, if it wasn't for the original,
I tend to.
If it wasn't for the original one, then this second one, who is clearly and obviously better and bigger in every way, wouldn't exist. And you're wrong. You're not wrong. You're like that's a correct thing. You just like the original. And I get it. It's that right up your alley.
I did.
Without Mighty Ducks, you don't have Mighty Ducks 2.
Yeah.
Like the far superior movie. Like it happens.
No, and that's
Sister. Sister
I
Act
totally,
2.
No, I wasn't gonna say it. I thought of it. And I was like, no, because I don't believe that.
Sister Act 2 has Lauryn Hill. All I'm saying.
Okay, that's great.
I totally understand. And I know that we'll get there. That God of War 2 has the bigger story. It has the grandiosity that Part 1 doesn't have. But to me, that kind of makes it a more emotional story. It keeps the focus on Kratos and his family. And to me, there's a payoff in God of War 1 with him becoming the God of War that I don't think 2 has. And 2 clearly was setting up a sequel where I think you can play God of War 1 and say, wow, that was an incredible story. You may want more, but you don't need more after playing God of War 1. And that's one of the things that, to me, when it comes to story, that's one of the things that I think they did right there, where, you can, well, I don't want to go into God of War 2. So
You've already done that.
I knew going into this episode that I was going to potentially be just completely outcast for having this belief. But that while I feel like the storytelling and the story of God of War is great, I feel like through the first 2, the gameplay was so painfully repetitive that no, I know, but now while neither of them made my mountain, I will continually, now granted the newest God of War is a whole different thing, but I will continually put the Devil May Cry series over the God of War series strictly from a gameplay perspective. Look, this is an opinion that I know that is very much puts me in the minority, but God of War falls into a game series for me where, like, if I had like a roommate that was really into God of War, I'd be like, cool, yeah, fire it up, right? I'll just sit here and goof around and get stuff done, and I'll watch you play it because the story is enthralling and the story is very good. But when I play God of War, I'm like, oh God, like you eventually find like the one or two combos that's all you need to accomplish everything. Whereas I feel like as Devil May Cry continued to evolve, and even if you've ever played Bayonetta, like those games took that concept, but then also very specifically created scenarios that force you out of the comfort zone of finding one sequence of combos that you liked that was always going to be devastating. By God of War 3, I feel like they pushed themselves out of that, but for God of War 1 and 2, like they didn't rise above just your basic hack slash mega combo that a lot of other games at the same time did. Like I said, I love the God of War storyline. I'll watch YouTube videos that are just FMVs from the game so that you get, and even boss fights, so that you get the story. But actually playing God of War, I don't know. I get bored. I'm sorry.
I think the boss fight thing, I'm glad.
That was Debona just talking.
I want to talk, but I need to table.
Yeah, we got to table this. This is a whole thing. You guys are dipping into.
Right. Yeah. We're coming back around on God of War. We all get that now. We can bring it back up in a minute.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So Debona, what was the awful pick that you didn't pick for number 2? What was
So now for my number 3, we get to go back
to Bona.
We get to go back with Jeff's number 2, and my number 3 is 2001 release of Final.
This is for number 2.
My number 2.
Yes.
My number 2 is Jeff's number 3, and the 2001 release of Final Fantasy X.
All
right. Final Fantasy X was a landmark game in the series. They did a bunch of things they'd never done before. They eliminated the overworld map. It's the first one with voice acting.
Not good voice acting. That's what I was going to say from before.
Definitely not good voice acting.
Is a meme, and it is a fucking internet sensation. But that's one of the things where I was saying I picked this for Neri because you don't have to read Neri. You can.
To me, it was never about. To me, it was never about the. It was never about the reading. Though. No, I don't. I'm not a fan of reading in certain instances in certain movies or whatever. But like if a movie has enthralling conversations. Point being, Captain Phillips, when the pirates are talking amongst themselves, they're in a different language, and I'll read the subtitles. It's good. Like I get it. The reading never bothered me in Final Fantasy games. It's really the turn-based system that really fucking I really hate that shit beyond belief.
And that's. And I know that Dave even said earlier that like he didn't get into turn-based play. See, I've been playing Final Fantasy since the first one on the NES. So I was turn-based was so ingrained in me that when 13 was the one with lightning, when 13 came out, I was like, all right, still turn-based. But then it was like 15 came out. I was like, what the shit is this?
Right.
So like, but anyway, just back to Final Fantasy X, it did a great job of telling a very compelling story that's got a wonderful twist at the end. You level up with the sphere grid, which was something that was
completely new.
Completely unheard of at the time. Got some very memorable characters. It's a lot of fun. It's one of my favorites in the series. I'd probably make it number 3 if I had to do Final Fantasy games by themselves. Yep. But it's a lot of fun to play. Story very compelling. One of the coolest things about Final Fantasy X that hadn't been done since really Final Fantasy V was this concept that anybody could do anything if you put the effort into it because of the sphere grid. Correct. So you could take Yuna and you could be like, yeah, sure, she's supposed to like heal and do this, but like, what if I just made her a beast and I just had her beat everybody to death with a staff?
Right.
And if you put the time into grinding that game out, or if you play the international version where you actually start with an unlocked sphere grid with everybody in the middle and get to completely choose what they do, you can make the game very much your own. There's a ton of end game content. It's got Blitzball, which
Blitzball is the most fun fucking thing you could ever see in your life.
I hated Blitzball when I first started playing it until I loved it. Like that's just like when the first time I played Final Fantasy X, I was like, all right, fine, I'll get through Blitzball. Like let's move on. And then I was like, wait, I can go recruit other players. And I started and then I started putting the time into recruiting other players. And I was like, I'll just build a beast of a Blitzball team. And it follows a lot of Final Fantasy tropes with the way they do stuff, but they also revolutionize a lot of things. Actually, the Final Fantasy VII remake that's coming out is going to use the Final Fantasy X summon system, where when you summon something, it's not just a one attack. They actually come onto the battlefield and work with you. It did a lot for the franchise. Plus, it's just a lot of fun to play. It's gorgeous.
I was going to say, like, this game still looks gorgeous.
Yeah, and this is the first of the Final Fantasies that they did a remake of to heighten the effects. They released it, and this is also the first Final Fantasy game that had a direct sequel.
It's the very first one to get a direct sequel.
No other Final Fantasy game ever had a direct sequel.
Which is so weird.
Right. Which now my thing with Final Fantasy X is, like you said, the special effects are beautiful. This is the reason it's polarizing is because this is the game that most people say and this is why I say for Neri. This is the game that for most people that aren't Final Fantasy fans, they say this is the game to get them into. Because there's enough of the original stuff to keep the original fans kind of into it, but new stuff to make it. It's one of the more linear versions of Final Fantasy. The story is very linear.
Yes, until you get to the very end or until you get the airship. Like there is no overworld where you can just wander around. They're literally like, all right, go to this next place.
Yeah, go there. It is. Talk to this guy. Go here. But one of the cool things about they changed the combat system in this that you could switch out characters in the middle of the fight. You could never do that before. So if one person's about to die, you don't lose them. And you can switch them out and put somebody else in.
Or if you've got somebody that's only a magic user and you're fighting somebody that's impervious to magic, then you don't have to run away and then start the battle over with them.
You just move them out. The only quirk I have with Final Fantasy X is, to me, it's one of the weaker final villains. Sin is kind of not exactly the sexiest villain, especially when you've dealt with Sephiroth and 7. You've got better villains throughout the series, but it's still like Titus. I love him as a character. Even the artwork on the cover of the game is just fucking beautiful. Him sitting in the water with the sword and the islands behind him, and you see the city in the distance. Like,
this is also one of the first Final Fantasy games where you didn't have to do additional research or own a player's guide to know enough about the characters to be super entranced in who they are. Yeah. When you go back to others, you learn just enough about the characters to keep the story going and to keep you involved in the story, but then you could go out and buy extra things that told you more about them. They really go very deep into a lot of these characters and make you understand who they are and why they do the things that they do. It was different, but at the same time, it felt like home.
Right.
And so I liked this one a lot. And like Jeff said, while Sin, yes, is a very underwhelming final battle, they also give you Omega Weapon, which is an optional boss, which Final Fantasy games, as they came to America, became very famous for. Omega Weapon and he's literally got millions of hit points, and it takes an hour to beat him, and so they kind of made up for that. But Sin definitely one of the odder and easier final bosses in a Final Fantasy game, but without giving away the story of Sin and what Sin actually is incredible.
Yeah, that's the other thing. This game, the story is just fucking phenomenal. Like, they can make a movie into that. There's a reason why this game is one of the first Final Fantasies that has a direct sequel.
Yeah, because
you want more. But I love it. I'm glad it made a mountain, because it to me, it's a game that I'm debating about even going back now and picking up the remastered version, even though the new Final Fantasy is coming in.
They did a good job with it.
Yeah. So, and the music is fucking great in this.
Mhm.
There's points when you're on the island that you can just leave it and play it as background music just to relax because it's just so soothing. But it's a great game. It's a great game, and it's a game for beginners. So like I feel like maybe give it a shot, Neri, because you might actually end up liking.
Nah.
It's really not a bad one to get into it on, man. It's easy to pick up. Like I said, one of the things about this one that was really cool with the turn-based system was they actually put like a list of people up on the side, and then when you pick what you're going to do, it shows you how it affects how long it'll be before you get to attack again. So it adds a lot of strategy to it.
Yeah.
All right. So
I think that the PS2 era, and it wasn't exclusively just on the PS2 because the Xbox, a few Xbox games had something to do with this, but they kind of tried evolving the classic turn-based system. I guess because these systems were like powerful enough to do more than just, okay, now wait until that guy goes. You started to explore with stuff like that. And this is when I started to get into that kind of exploratory phase where I check out some games like that. I didn't play through X, but I saw X, and it's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, there we go.
All right. So Jeff, what do you got for number 2?
God of War 2.
Table.
Yeah. That's why I was like, let's not talk about it right now.
All right.
I have opinions as well.
My number 2 is Grand Theft Auto Vice City.
Okay, so we can talk about this
Yes,
now.
we can. Well, Vice City is first of all, it's I don't even know if this is a thing for me specifically, but there's other games in the Grand Theft Auto franchise that were rated higher, that were more popular, but this one just did it for me on all levels. San Andreas was a more popular game. In fact, San Andreas is like the highest selling PS2 game of all time. I think it is. At least it was for a while.
It's the best Grand Theft Auto.
But I don't like that whole I gotta fucking start working out and start getting out. Fuck you. Like, don't really. I'm fat in real life. I don't even want to work out in fucking in a video game. Like, I just think that's fucking stupid. I try to get into San Andreas and I just couldn't. Not that I couldn't, but
it's because Vice City Scarface.
Well,
That's
here's the
why
thing:
you
it's
like-
Scarface and Miami Vice and Goodfellas. It's a real fucking Ray Liotta's the making. I mean, come on, dude. You got fucking. It's a thing, and it's based in Miami. Like, it's fucking like you can call it whatever the fuck you want to call it, but we know it's Miami, and so that's why I was saying I don't know if that has a thing with it because I'm from Miami, so it's from Miami. And I had this thing when Pitbull first took off. Like, when Pitbull came on the scene, in the music scene, I thought to myself, do I just like Pitbull because I'm from Miami and he's from Miami? Or do I actually like his music? And I couldn't fucking answer that question. And then the same thing with this one. Like, I don't know if I love Vice City more so than the other ones because it's in Miami and I'm from Miami. But I know it definitely doesn't hurt. But everything, the soundtrack to this, the 80s, the fact that it's in the 80s.
This definitely has the best soundtrack.
Best fucking soundtrack.
I'll give you that 100%.
It's so fucking great. I bought, like, this is one of the few, this is in the prime of, like, we're gonna illegally download music, and this was, I went out to fucking Walmart, not to Walmart, to Target, and I bought the actual soundtrack to Vice City. And what they did later on, I don't know if they did it, but they would sell you the soundtrack for each radio station, which was kind of a fucking money grab, which is such a money grab.
I torrented the each radio station's album.
Yeah. So, so I went. I love the soundtrack. I love the look, the fucking the Miami Vice look. That definitely they took scenes from Scarface and they didn't fucking do what
the nightclub.
Yeah, the nightclub. It's so fucking good. Like, they took all these things and all these elements and they made it a thing. And now again, San Andreas. I like San Andreas. This is what I was saying before. Like, I fucking played through Vice City to the end. I didn't do that with San Andreas. I didn't do that with even GTA 3, which GTA 3 was really fucking good, man. It was really great. I didn't go all the way through until it was, actually, I think I did go all the way through with GTA 3. But Vice City, I remember it was just fucking beautiful. And again, Ray Liotta, which if you heard the Mob Movies episode, I think is such an underrated actor. and I fucking love anytime I could get my hands on anything Ray Liotta like. So I'm in, man. That's why.
Anything Ray Liotta.
Absolutely. I saw Killing Them Softly the other day, and that hurt my fucking soul. I gotta be honest with you. So not gonna spoil anything. I know Jeff was gonna watch it. I didn't know. I don't know if he finished it, but
no, I didn't get to finish it.
Yeah, it hurt my soul when I saw what happened to Ray Liotta, or not what happened, like what they did, like his character is what I'm saying. So GTA 3, GTA 3,
And
GTA Vice City is my number 2.
Can I talk about San Andreas without stepping on anyone's toes?
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. I think one of the reasons why Vice City makes my list over San Andreas is I think San Andreas is just too big and too ambitious. Which, coming from a guy who loves the Elder Scrolls games and the Fallout games, is kind of weird to say. But because you're playing a character with a preset personality and you don't get to actually role play, to me it becomes too much. I felt like I was being forced into CJ's world, and CJ is for sure, like, far and away the best character. I think in any of the Grand Theft Auto games. I think a close second.
I'm sorry, Trevor's the best character.
I was going to say my second figure would probably be Nico from Part 4.
Nico's great.
But
I'm waiting for a Hispanic. Can I just be honest? I'm waiting for a Hispanic fucking protagonist in these games, and I feel it's fucking really fucked up that they don't think that Hispanics have it in us to be fucking killers and drug dealers, because we're fucking. That's what the fuck we do, man. That's fucking very very hurtful. Very hurtful. Rock star. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So that was one of the things that I think I liked about Vice City over San Andreas, and even about Part 3, because Part 3 was massive in scope too. Vice City was smaller, like geography wise, than 3 or San Andreas was. But I feel like the characters were more fleshed out. I feel like the story arcs were more interesting. And even though Tommy never spoke, I really liked him. And I can put myself in his shoes, whereas with CJ, I couldn't do that. And I think where San Andreas kind of, Rockstar let the game get away from them with all of the different things you can do with the car modifications.
Yeah,
and
that was just too much.
Working out, eating at this restaurant or going over there. Like, I just wanted to, like, fucking murder people and, like, have sex with hookers and like let me be
and wanted to play the video game too. What the fuck, dude? I mean, let us have that.
See, to me, San Andreas took everything that was great about 3 and Vice City and improved it. To me, I'm not racist, so I kind of saw what CJ was going for and what was happening with CJ. I'm just kidding. I'm not calling you racist. I'm not.
Okay.
I was like, which one of us is he calling racist? I mean,
yeah,
I'm totally joking. I was totally kidding.
I was like, he's not wrong either way, but I just want to know which one he was talking about.
No, but like to me, like, even, and I still remember, like, in San Andreas, I barely remember Vice City. I remember the dance club scene. I remember the soundtrack being great, but I remember the deaths in San Andreas and how like sad that shit was, and like I remember this dude looking like Eazy-E. I remember like I when especially playing GTA 5, like, to me the GTAs is about as much customization and things that you can do. It to me GTA evolved into like a Sims but for murder.
Yeah, but here's the problem that I have with that is you're right in the sense, but it doesn't. They don't do that with like in GTA 4 and 5. You can't soup up your cars like you can in San Andreas. It was too much. It was too fucking much. And in GTA 4 and 5,
cultural.
And no, I just think that is the gameplay system. Like, you have to work out. Like, GTA 4 and 5, you get stronger by fighting more people, so you get better at fighting by just fighting. You don't have to separate time to just work out. You don't have to, like, when you go to, you could customize your car in a sense of like, oh, I painted it a different color and I did this, but you don't have to get fucking NOS, and you get, like, it's a whole fucking other thing on San Andreas where we're just like, all right, can I go kill somebody now?
I disagree. To me, the reason why it's in that game is because that is a cultural explanation of the time. Where San Andreas is taking place, they want to soup up their cars. They're working out. They're doing all that. They put it in the location.
What do you mean they?
Who's they?
Who's they?
What do you mean those people?
The folks of San Andreas, sir. The folks of San Andreas. But where they're taking it to, that's that culture. Like the game gets put, just like when you look at 5, which 5 is one of the fucking greatest things
games
ever
of all time. Yeah.
Like Trevor's got his own shit in the fucking mobile home.
Right.
You've got the rich. I'm blanking out on names now. Besides after Trevor, but you've got the rich guy. You've got the other guy that's trying to do right, but it's kind of like
look. But he's basically he's not working out either. And it's the same, and it's a dude from the hood coming up and trying to, and he's not working out. It's just,
but it's not at that time.
I just think it's just a little bit too much is all. And I didn't even get to finish the game.
Yeah.
But again, it's a great game. I'm not doubting the game. I'm not debating. I'm not saying San Andreas is shit. I'm just saying I didn't even finish it because it was just too much for me. It was just maybe now that I have time. Maybe now I have time. I go back to it, but I don't know. So
I can agree with you and Dave about that though. That I can see where there's too much, but at the same time, I appreciate giving me all these options of shit that I can do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In those GTA games. Yeah. I like that expansion. And Dabone has been quiet as fuck this entire time.
I'm not a Grand Theft Auto fan.
Okay.
I know. Honestly, it's not even that I have anything negative to say about it. That's why I'm not trying to downplay y'all for liking it. I understand why people love the Grand Theft Auto franchise. I don't know. It's just I'm not target audience when it comes to Grand Theft Auto.
Me and you are exactly we're two sides of the same coin. I don't understand RPG turn-based games. I get that it's popular. It's just not my thing. And you're the other way around. You know what I mean? Like we're two sides of the same coin, brother. I get you. I understand.
It's the same as like you and me with Kingdom Hearts. Like I understand the love for it. I haven't gotten into it. I'm starting to try to.
Yeah,
but I'm not getting.
And like, I played 3. I played Vice City for a little while. I played San Andreas for a while. I've never even played 4 and 5. Just
it's on sale.
They're the best ones.
I've just never been a big fan. Like to the point that when I'll be playing like when I was playing Sleeping Dogs. Like I wanted to love Sleeping Dogs.
You don't like that game?
It was just a grand. It was just a Grand Theft Auto clone with Arkham style fighting.
Karaoke.
And so it's just like that. And like I said, it's just the way it just kind of seeps through. There was one Grand Theft Auto clone that I did really enjoy. It was called Crackdown. It was
table for the Xbox episode.
But like I said, I don't know. I just kind of missed the boat on that one. It's just they just don't appeal to me, like I said. But then again, I'm a guy who's got 300 hours into a Fallout 3 game, and I'm sure there are people who would never want to have anything to do with Fallout. So it's like you said, it's just different strokes, different folks, right?
Yeah, I would try to get into, if I were you, try to get into 4 and 5. 5 specifically because 5 changed it in the sense of they have heists. Like so, every so often, no matter what you're doing, you build up to a crew where you now have to do a heist, and then you get to pick and choose how you want to.
Okay.
How you want to do that.
Grand Theft Auto 5 is on sale for $14 right now.
Yeah.
It's 3 different story arcs.
Oh, really?
Well, I'm just throwing it out.
Yeah,
I don't need a video game right now because I'm going to have a Final Fantasy VII remake in a few days. That's 48 hours.
You're right. Yeah.
But this is a good game, though. So try this one and then see whatever you want.
There's no turn-based.
Yeah, no, new Final Fantasy VII remake, not turn-based.
Oh.
Don't worry. I got the disc near. I'll lend it to you after I beat it.
All right.
Unlike some people.
So
I did not get the disc for Animal Crossing, so I cannot lend it to you.
You don't get the disc for anything. That's why you can't lend any of your shit. That's the
also,
fucking
you're
joke.
never done with Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
You owe Nook your soul.
Have you added a Tiger King wallpaper to your house? No, then you failed.
That's so funny. God of War. Sorry, number twos are God of War 1, Final Fantasy 10, God of War 2, and Grand Theft Auto Vice City. So let's go for some honorable mentions.
All right. I got on Geekmore podcast page, Diego, Malala.
Facebook, you mean the Facebook page? The Geekmore
Facebook.
Right.
Yeah. Diego's got 4-1. Madden 2001, MVP Baseball 2005, Grand Theft Auto 3, and Grand Theft Auto Vice City.
It's sports and murder.
Yeah. Christopher Garcia has Donkey Kong, Contra, F-Zero, GoldenEye, and honorable mention to Galaga. Cool.
Thank you,
Chris. Love you, Chris. Carlos Navarrete. There you go, Debona. I looked at you. I said that.
I know.
Kingdom Hearts 2, Metal Gear Solid 3, God of War 2, Silent Hill 2, honorable mentions to Final Fantasy 10, and Resident Evil 4.
Silent Hill 2 was cross-platform, therefore it did not make.
That's honorable mention for me, and so is Resident Evil 4. But I played it more on the GameCube than I did on PS2.
Mm-hmm.
Jemiah has from 4-1 God of War 2, GTA Vice City, Metal Gear Solid 3, Need for Speed Most Wanted. Fucking great game. Honorable mention, Resident Evil 4, God of War, and Tekken 5. Another great game.
Tekken 5, very good.
Yeah. I got Neri, on your comedy page, on your regular page, Joanne Luna just put Road Trip Vacation, but that says PS1, so that's
that's on par for him. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then I just lost it. Hold on. Shit. I just lost. Hold on. Sorry.
Son of a bitch.
All right, here it is. And then on your comedy page, Suarez put God of War, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, Need for Speed Carbon, Kingdom Hearts. Honorable mentions, Tony Hawk Underground, also an honorable mention for me, God of War 2, and Resident Evil 4.
All right. Dave, what do you got for honorable mentions?
Okay, my honorable mentions are... so here I have a few that are not PlayStation exclusives, or were not exclusive at the time that they were released. Return to Castle Wolfenstein is a game that I played the absolute fuck out of.
Yeah,
like just over and over and over again. Yeah, murder and Nazis. And brother, business is a booming. Half-Life is another port from a classic PC game to the PlayStation 2. I am somewhat of a fan of first-person shooters. I wouldn't say that I wouldn't call myself a fan, but I'm not against the games. Dark Cloud is a sort of like weird action adventure RPG with elements of like SimCity kind of built into it.
Also Zelda.
Yeah, it's kind of Zelda meets The Sims. Very weird, but I like it a lot. And that's an early one. I think shipped with the PlayStations at the same time.
I think it's if not, it's a very early in the games.
Yeah.
Like,
and my final one, I'm gonna go with The Simpsons Hit and Run.
Oh, such a good fucking game.
So, dude, I played that game so much. It's like The Simpsons meets Grand Theft Auto, and you get so much of the humor of the TV show. Not every Simpsons game is good. In fact, some of them are atrocious.
Most of them are good.
But that... what's that?
Most of them are not good, but this was really... Yeah, that was...
What?
That's most
Bart's Nightmare is fucking amazing.
I'm not saying that there's I'm not saying that there's not any good games. I'm saying there's a lot of Simpsons games, guys. There's a lot of them. It's like fucking Spider-Man games. There's 1,000 Spider-Man games, but really you got 2 or 3 that are great, and then the rest.
Simpsons arcade game is fantastic.
Oh, that's
Hit and Run is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Bart's Nightmare is fantastic. The Around the World one's kind of meh.
I'm with Neri. I think most of the Simpsons games.
How many more
not
games
that
are there?
great. There's 22.
Really?
Yes.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah. I looked it up today.
You pulled that number out so fast. It's either fake or you did the research.
Yeah.
I did the research.
He's being very like, like that whole thing of pretend like you're supposed to be there, and people just buy it.
Right,
Like that's how that 22 was said.
That's but my favorite part is that Jeff. My favorite part is that Jeff is holding out his hand like this one was good, this one was good, that one was good. What are we at 3? How many are left? Oh, that's right, fucking 19 left.
19 more? I guess I lose.
I'm out.
Yeah, that game's incredible though. It's so funny. I mean, and it's fun as a video game itself. Even aside from the humor, it's just a fun
It's a good
game.
Crazy Taxi.
22.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Yeah.
Yep.
22.
Let me
That's
fact
so
check
fucking-
myself because I'm
No, I just, you know what? Don't. I'd rather, you know what?
Don't.
Don't. I don't even, because I don't want you to come back and be like, yeah, but
It could be-
nah, it's 22. Fuck
Yeah,
it.
It'll
I
always be 22 to me.
Yeah, it's like I meant 7.
That's
It's 22 to me, damn it. I'm throwing out one more. Red Dead Revolver.
okay.
Oh, good.
Okay.
I don't have to mention that one then.
All right. All right, DeBono, what do you got for honorable mentions?
All right, so what I've got for honorable mentions are games that don't deserve to be on the mountain, that I don't expect to be on anybody else's list, but games that I just love and that I wanted to make sure got mentioned. So
19 other Simpson games.
I can't near you a title of a game, and you might be the only other person.
Yeah.
that would have it on this list.
so there's a game called We Love Katamari, which is the sequel to Katamari Damacy. It's just ridiculous fun. There's not a ton of story. Basically, the King of the Cosmos gets drunk, blows up everything, and sends this little prince out to roll stuff up until it's big enough to become new stars. It's a lot of fun to play. The music is entrancing. We love Katamari. There's a beat 'em up called God Hand.
Yeah.
That if nobody's played God Hand, you literally just play a guy where all you do is get drunk and fight. Like that's the game. But it's a lot of fun, and honestly, as a beat 'em up, it's one of the better ones. Like it's right, it's the evolution of Fatal Fury and all of those things. There is a game called, and they made a bunch of sequels to it. A game series called Fatal Frame.
Yes.
That I love.
It's photograph ghosts.
It's a horror game where you actually kill and exercise ghosts by taking their photos.
Yes.
A lot of fun to play. A game called Tenchu Wrath of Heaven.
Ooh, I love the Tenchu game.
Where you're a ninja. Fighting game called Bloody Roar 3. I did not put any fighting games in my thing because there's not a lot of story to them. But Bloody Roar was a fighting game series where every character you picked had like an animal personality, and there was a button you could hit to transform into that animal, change their moveset. 3 was the first one on PlayStation 2, and it was really, really good. I'm going to skip that one because I think it's going to be somebody's number 1, and I don't want to burst their bubble. Game called Okami that was later ported to the Nintendo Wii. Beautifully cel-shaded game. Tells an amazing story it's essentially a Japanese mythology book turned into a video game that's just gorgeous, really fun to play. Almost made my list. And my last one's another very obscure horror game, but if you're into horror games, I think you might really enjoy it. It's called Clock Tower 3. And there are no weapons. You're constantly, whenever you run into ghosts or scary things, you have to either evade them or hide from them. And the way that you defeat them is you have to find the person.
Oh, he froze. There
so they can move on.
The bono, you froze.
Yeah. You have to find after you said you find the person, it froze.
Okay. You find the personal item that they're still looking for, the reason that they're still a ghost. You have to find that personal item and give it to them.
That's cool.
To send them into the afterlife. But it's very, very scary. It incorporates what's called a panic meter. You feel the player's heartbeat in your controller. It's a very scary game. It's called Clock Tower 3. Like I said, none of these deserve to be on a mountain, but they're all games that I absolutely loved on the PS2.
Cool.
I knew one of those games you mentioned. Yeah, that's it. I knew Tenchu. That's the only one. That's the only game that I remember.
I guarantee you know Katamari Damacy. I guarantee you know that game.
Okay.
That's the one where you have to roll the giant ball and collect things.
And like sometimes it's real small and you're rolling up like pocket change, and as it gets bigger, you can roll bigger things. Sometimes it's really big and you end up rolling up whole cities. And We Love Katamari. And We Love Katamari, the final one was you actually started off like middle size, but you eventually were like rolling up the Great Pyramids and stuff like that.
Yeah.
All right. Jeff,
All right.
is there anything that
So for
Debona did
me-
not mention in his 27 fucking
a lot of the
honorable mentions?
He did not- and I don't care. I have a bunch too. I'm not going to mention any ones that were previously mentioned. Talking about in the realm of games that are art more than games, Shadow of the Colossus, which I just
awesome.
Okay.
They had it for free.
So that game I never actually played. I never actually played that. Well, go ahead. Yeah.
I also have, being a fan of first-person shooters, especially military ones, SOCOM 2, Navy SEALs.
Navy SEAL
was the precursor to all these shooter games, multiplayer. One of the first games to have multiplayer battle royales. I got to give props to that. Also in the same realm, Star Wars Battlefront.
Great one.
Suarez mentioned Tony Hawk Pro Skater Underground. Splinter Cell Chaos Theory.
Multi-platform. That's why I didn't. That's the only reason I didn't mention it. I am a Splinter Cell fanatic.
Fucking love Splinter
I
Cell.
was a nationally ranked Pandora Tomorrow and Chaos Theory player.
That's amazing.
That's
I
awesome.
love it.
Absolutely, I was. Do any of you guys read Penny Arcade by any chance?
Yeah.
Of course.
Gabe from Penny Arcade and I were a nationally ranked Chaos Theory team.
Wow, that's awesome. That's fucking cool. I love Penny Arcade. So the only sports game I have is Fight Night 2004, the boxing game. I actually really dug those boxing games that they came out with. I really enjoyed it. I was just going to say two more, Neri, because I know I said a lot. Fighting game-wise, Soul Calibur 2.
Oh, yes.
Love that game. And then my last fighting game, I don't give a fuck, Def Jam Fight for New York. That game was the shit.
I love Def Jam Fight for New York. I wish they would make a new one. Like,
I checked the PlayStation Store after I sent it to Neri today, and I was like, "Please tell me that you guys have it for purchase," and they don't.
Somebody created a fan art one with a bunch of 2000s rappers and stuff with a bunch of people added in, and the first time I saw it, I immediately was like, "Oh my god, there's a new Fight for New York coming out," but it was fake.
Bro, I Def Jam Fight for New York is just a fucking playing his mess, and just the rappers, the soundtrack was great.
Yeah. Oh, fuck, dude.
Oh my god, that game was so much fun. I remember the subway one where you could throw them into the subway train. Bro, it was such a fun fucking fighting game.
It was very fun.
But that's my 17 honorable mentions. What's the Metal Black? Sorry.
My honorable mentions. I have Need for Speed Most Wanted. I have
that's a good one.
Shadow of the Colossus. I have Bart versus Space Mutants. I have the Simpsons arcade game. I have Bart's House of Weirdness. Bart Simpson's Escape from Camp Deadly. Bart versus the World. Bart versus the Juggernauts. Bartman meets Radioactive Man.
I haven't heard of
Bart's Nightmare. Krusty's Funhouse. Bart and the Beanstalk. Virtual Bart. Itchy and Scratchy and Miniature Golf Madness. The Itchy and Scratchy game. The Simpsons Cartoon Studio. Virtual Springfield. The Simpsons Bowling. Night of the Living Treehouse of Horror. The Simpsons Wrestling. Road Rage, The Simpsons Skateboarding, Road Rage again, Hit and Run, The Simpsons Game, Minutes to Meltdown, Itchy and Scratchy Land, and then Tapped Out. That's it. Those are my honorable mentions.
I was wondering if you were going to say Tapped Out on it.
Yeah. Bart does Dallas.
I literally went through the Wikipedia of all the games and go, no, I'm not missing a fucking one.
Oh, good,
I'm not
because I thought you did that off of your head.
Yeah.
There's actually 27. Hit and Run is number 22.
Yeah.
That's why that number was stuck with me.
Mm-hmm.
So
Jesus Christ.
So I don't know. Those are my honorable mentions, just because whatever.
That's great.
All right. What do we got for
Round 1?
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back.
Do it! Do it! Come on! Come on!
All right.
Hey, cool. Really quick. I also need to add Dead to Rights, the game where you have a dog, you're a cop, and you have a dog that you can send to attack people. All right. Bye. Go ahead. Number 1.
Oh, and Max Payne. Can we just add Max Payne? Okay, we'll add Max Payne. All right.
But I played that on PC. I played that on PC. That was
I played it on PS2.
Yeah.
Okay, so my number 1 is Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater.
Honorable mention for me. That's the one I skipped because I knew that she was.
Yeah,
that's also my number 1 as well.
This is I would
Was it
say
Snake
like
Eater?
Snake
Eater, yeah.
This is one of the greatest games of all time. Like not just PlayStation 2 games, not just PlayStation, as a series of consoles, just video games of all time. This is right up there.
This is the James Bond game we never got.
Yeah.
Because the opening of this game, the beauty of Metal Gear Solid 3 is that you have two different essentially main stories, because you play as Big Boss, which all you hear about in the first two Metal Gears is about Big Boss and how bad he is, and how you play as him now. You see how he loses his eye. You see all those things. But the opening of that, before you get to the fucking title screen, it's betrayal, his fucking, his teacher, his partner, his confidant is working with the Soviets, Cold War in Russia, and then, the first part is him getting betrayed, doing this, and then the second part is him having to go find her and stop her and end what was happened in the first part.
Right.
It takes the Metal Gear games to a next level because it puts everybody forcefully into hard mode, because you don't get the fucking mini map that you got in the first two games that shows you where all the guards are, where everyone is. You are in the fucking jungle. You are on your fucking own.
Welcome to the jungle.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, also the fact that it is in a jungle is very different from Metal Gear Solid and Metal Gear Solid 2.
Yeah.
The two original Metal Gear games for the Nintendo were like that, but we're talking about two drastically different games.
Oh yeah, there's no game that undertook such a drastic change.
Yeah,
and I will say that the original Metal Gear for Nintendo is like way ahead of its time, very advanced. You were talking about Hitman and changing costumes. Like the first time I did that was in Metal Gear, the original Metal Gear.
Right.
So like there's all these concepts that they used back then, but really the first time that you felt like you were in a jungle was there, which is very different from Metal Gear Solid and Metal Gear Solid 2, especially Metal Gear Solid 2, where the majority of the game takes place on like an ultra future tech aircraft carrier.
Boat, right? Yeah, like the whole thing's on a ship. Sons of Liberty was too, right?
Sons of Liberty. Yeah.
This game shows you how the Metal Gear was created. This is the game that sets everything up. Like it even had, when I talked about the James Bond thing, it had an opening title sequence that had a James Bond song. Essentially, it was like Snake Eater. Like it literally was like a fucking James Bond song. One of the things I love about this game is you legitimately felt like you were a survivalist, because your food would go rotten. Like you actually had to use the right camo for the right situation. You had a monitor that showed you, oh, you're only 40% hidden. Maybe change to this camo. Like you had to adjust to your environment. It was very, and it was with the first game, because in the other Metal Gears, if you got found, you were dead. In this game, you actually had a fighting chance. You could fight off the guy.
If you got found and you were wounded, you had to actually heal yourself.
First aid. It was first aid.
It was first aid, and you had to actually use like some sort of like handheld X-ray system to figure out where the bullets were. You had to take out the bullets. You had to clean the wound. You had to dress the wound. It was taking everything that was great about the stealth factor of the first two, and like building upon it and saying, hey, so we're just going to take the realism and increase it.
You're basically John Rambo in the shit.
Yeah,
kind of. Yeah,
with more subtlety.
Like I said, I had
fewer exploding arrowheads.
Yeah.
Does he rip somebody's heart out and show it to him? Oh, then let's relax with that fucking comparison, sir.
I had this one as an honorable mention, and actually like was pained in not putting it on my list. What the final decision for me for not putting it on my actual list was, I love Snake Eater, but I actually I had a roommate who played through Snake Eater, and I attempted to play Snake Eater, and I enjoyed it, but there were just parts of Snake Eater that were so frustrating to me that I didn't enjoy playing it as much as some other things. But the story, the game, everything about it was incredible. The reason I ended up bumping it down to honorable mention was because it's one of very few games in my lifetime where I've had more fun just laying on the couch watching somebody play it. And that's how I got through Snake Eater. I had a roommate who was playing it on the TV in the living room, and like we both get home, he'd be like, "Oh, you want to play Snake Eater?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So he'd grab the controller, I'd grab a case of beer, and we'd just go to town. And I'd just sit there and just hammer him. And I loved it. The story was incredible. Yeah, actually finding out about Big Boss and stuff like that. I mean, I knew that at least one of you would have it. That's why I didn't say it in my honorable mention. And finding out two of you did is great. I can't fault this pick with any part of me. I just didn't make it.
The other thing about this game, what I loved is one of the I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, folks that have played the game. One of the best characters or most loved characters in the game is Revolver Ocelot.
Revolver,
and you see him completely different from the Revolver Ocelot you get in the other games, because it's the young one guy.
He's triple and like quadruple, like backstabbing people the whole time. And until you find out he's actually a good guy.
He actually backstabs people 22 times. So there's that.
Is Snake Eater the one with the really epic Revolver Ocelot like gun spinning sequence that lasts like 2.5 minutes? Was that in Snake Eater?
I don't remember.
That's the first one.
Okay, yeah, that's the first.
That's because introduction.
That's right. Yeah. When you're in the room.
Yeah. Okay. That's the first
no.
One.
But this one, you get the young Revolver Ocelot that he's still military Soviet military attire.
Yeah.
He's he's very conceited in himself. He's very much like and brash, and he's not the calculating Revolver Ocelot you get in the later game in the first games.
Right.
I say later games because this is a prequel, but you know what I mean.
Don't ever try to figure out the Metal Gear Solid timeline. Your brain will ooze out of your ears.
And then to me, one of the most fun fights is in this game, boss fights, and it's with the end, which is the old man sniper who's in a wheelchair at the beginning of the game and becomes this amazing sniper. That the entire fight is literally 3 sections of forest or of jungle, and you have to try to find him before he gets you.
It took everything that was great about the Sniper Wolf fight in the first game and just amped it. And it was so we're going to make it impossible for you to find him.
and I had mentioned this at the very beginning of the episode when Debona had mentioned about, how if you could do a certain thing and you could end the game right away. Mm-hmm. So in Metal Gear Solid 3, there's actually a little Easter egg with the end. There's a part at the beginning where you're seeing him being pushed in the wheelchair and everybody's there. There's a barrel, and if you shoot the barrel, you kill him, and you never have to fight with the end. Like, you literally wipe him out at the beginning of the game with the exploding barrel.
Well, and Metal Gear Solid games have always. I mean, it was Metal Gear Solid 1 for PlayStation 1, where during the final boss fight, it would read your memory card, and if you had any other Konami games on there, it would comment about the games you'd played.
Yep.
You would have to unplug your controller and plug it into Port 2.
That was Psycho Mantis.
Yes, that was against Psycho Mantis in the first one. So the Metal Gear games have always been huge on that. I mean, they're Kojima games, right?
Yeah, Hideo Kojima is a genius. Now, one thing, too, which I think you'll appreciate. So another funny thing is that there's a certain portion. I never tried this. But there's a certain part.
Kojima.
Coronavirus. There's a point in the game where if you just leave the controller down and you walk away, and after 7 minutes, if you walk away, the end dies of old age. No shit. Yeah. He's literally this old man that in the beginning of the game is pushed in a wheelchair. But when you have the fight with him, he's this badass sniper that you can't fucking find anywhere, and he's just murdering you.
Snake Eater, I believe, is also the one where if you play for like so many hours, like you get like a comm call, and they the game actually bitches at you for not taking a break.
Oh, really?
It's either Sons of Liberty or Snake Eater, but I think it's Snake Eater where if you play for an extended period of time, like a certain number of hours, you get a comm call and the game will actually like tell you that you need to go outside and pause it.
That's funny. But and the thing is that the game is you're not only fighting against the villains, you're fighting against the environment because crocodiles will get you. The snakes will get you. It's
You'll
literally
literally eat
Snake
the
Eater
snakes.
because
you'll get poisoned by the snakes. You'll get poisoned by spiders. You'll get all these bites, and you've got to going back to the survivalist stuff you were talking about. You have to take care of it, and you have to take care of it right away because if you don't, your bones will heal incorrectly.
Right.
You'll start to suffer. Like your heart will shut down. It's just so advanced. It's a video game that's not quite like a video game.
And that became it was the precedent. Like when you get to 4 and you get to Phantom Pain, I mean, they're all obviously heavily influenced by Snake Eater more so than Sons of Liberty.
Right. I think for the better.
Oh yeah, no, me too.
I enjoyed Sons of Liberty, but it's low on the Metal Gear Solid totem.
Yeah, like I said, I love the Metal Gear Solid games, but like when Phantom Pain came out, my brother would just share play it, and I would just sit there and watch them because I do enjoy them. There's just something weird about the gameplay that never quite clicked with me, but I do love the game.
They're very cinematic, so I think it's one of the few video games that you can just sit back and
I mean, it's how many
enjoy it.
There's so much cinematics in Metal. That's the only thing. Snake Eater has so many fucking cutscenes,
and they're long.
And they're long fucking cutscenes.
Yeah, like like if you were to play those now, like your controller would probably turn off from non-use in some of those cutscenes.
I think there was like a 25-minute cutscene at one point in the game.
There's one of the which is the one that came out on PS3 or PS4. Like it was a big fucking what to do about in the Metal Gear franchise, and I forget which one it is that I bought. Is that Sons of Liberty? No, that's 2001.
I think that's Phantom Pain.
Phantom Pain. Could you evolve your horse to the point that a button made it shit?
No, it didn't
because that was Phantom Pain.
Maybe no.
Phantom Pain was 5.
Phantom Pain was 5. Yeah.
I'm trying to look at the list, and I can't for the fucking life of me. I can't.
4 was PlayStation 3. 5 was PlayStation 4.
Was it Guns of Guns of the Patriots? That's like the first one that I played since the original Metal Gear. Like I played the original Metal Gear on NES, and I was too young for that one, but I did like it. I did like watching my brothers play. But then Metal Gear Solid 4 was the first one that I picked up and played, and it was beautiful and it was stunning. And fuck, if those cutscenes weren't so long, holy shit! I got to the point where I was like, I'm only 22, but I got shit to do, guys. Like I got fucking chores I gotta go do. Like this is bullshit. Like how am I supposed to watch this? And then the last when you beat the final boss, it's like literally an hour and a half, 2 hour fucking cutscene.
Oh yeah, it's like watching a movie.
Yeah, no, it's not like watching. It's literally watching a fucking movie. It's an hour and a half, 2 hours long. Just the final cutscene. Not all the cutscenes put together. The final cutscene is like an hour and a half. And I was like, Jesus, dude. And then you don't know how long it's gonna be, so you sit there and you're like, okay, and you're like, what the fuck is happening? You're like, it's just this whole thing. I just thought it was too long.
And you gotta pee and you can't pause.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
One complaint about people have about Metal Gear Solid 3 is that there's really like 4 points of ending. It's like the last Lord of the Rings movie.
Yeah,
It's going to end in like 4 different times. And it's like, oh no, there's another boss. Oh, by the way, no,
fuck about these trees. Jesus. Fuck. But all right.
That's me and Dave's number 1. Yeah,
all right.
You go.
DeBono, what do you got for number 1, brother?
So when I made this list, I was convinced that I was like, all right, I'm just going to stick with like one from like major companies. And so there were these 2 games that I was like, I got to pick one of these. I got to pick one of these. I got to pick one of these. And it was kicking my ass. Then I eventually realized that Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy are both Square, and they were both going to make my list. So that that rule was obviously out the window. So not only do I have Eco at my number 3, but at my number 1, I've got Shadow of the Colossus.
Okay.
I didn't know those 2 things were related.
Shadow of the Colossus.
So.
Oh, God, yeah. Shadow of the Colossus is literally made by a group called Team Eco because they got together just to make the game Eco. Shadow of the Colossus took everything about Eco and ramped it up. Shadow of the Colossus, for anybody who may be unfamiliar, recently got a PlayStation 4 remake that the HD on it is just absolutely gorgeous. I think you can get it for like $10 on PlayStation Store. I highly recommend it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Shadow of the Colossus is a game where there's no beginning. You literally are just watching a guy with a horse with what seems to be a body on it. He goes to this temple, puts it on a slab, and there is no English or Japanese or any real language spoken in this game. He basically prays for a way to bring his girl back to life because she was sacrificed in like a village ritual. And some voice from the heavens is like, yeah, sure, I'll bring her back to life. But what you've got to do is you've got to travel around the world and kill these colossi, which are these monstrosities made of essentially rock that live all over this map.
It's called Colossin.
No, it's colossi.
I know. It's a fucking. It's actually a joke by Brian Regan when he talk about he never knows the plural form of anything.
And he says boxing of donuts.
Yeah. I like the fact that the teacher in the Brona came out and he's like, "No, bitch, it's colossi." Like, all right, take it. All right.
So
F+ nearing
this game, there is no interaction with other people, except for this voice from the heavens that's speaking a made-up language. There are no villages. There are no little things that you fight to level up. This is a game that consists solely of boss battles. You go, and you've got a sword that when the sun shines on it, it will direct you towards where the next Colossus is. You go, you find the Colossus, and every Colossus has got a sequence of sigils on them. And this is where the puzzle aspect of the game comes in. Your goal every time you find a new Colossus is you have to figure out how to get to that sigil on the Colossus in order to stab it with your sword enough times that it dies. Then you go back, and the voice from the heavens gives you a riddle about another one that you've got to go try to find, and that's all you do. You get on your horse, you ride it, you find this boss, you beat it. That sounds ridiculous, and that does not sound like something that's worthy of being a number one. I get that. It is absolute beauty encompassed in game form. If I were to do a list of all video games of all time, then Shadow of the Colossus might even make it would probably be my number 4 out of all time. This game is gorgeous. It's heartbreaking at times. You don't really know anything about this guy, but you're constantly faced with this thing of, why am I killing these things? They're not doing anything. It's not like they're monsters that are out destroying the world. You literally go to where these things live and piss them off just so you can kill them. There's one that's like halfway in the ground and asleep, and you have to walk up and hit it and get it and piss it off and make it stand up just so you can kill it. There's a very interesting philosophical element to this of whether or not it's worth it to do this because you think that it might bring your loved one back to life. Because like I said, they're not monsters that are terrorizing anything. They're all in a very specific space, just fucking vibing, right? They're just living their life. They're not bothering anybody. And so this game, it tugs at your soul as a whole. And it doesn't, like, every single time you kill one of these things, there's this beautiful moment where this kind of darkness encompasses you, and the game makes you sit and think about what you just did before you get to carry on. And the story, as minimal as it is entrancing. Team Eco has released, as far as I know, 3 games. 2 of them on the PlayStation 2, 1 of them on the PlayStation 4. It's called The Last Guardian. And all of them are exactly the same thing. Minimalistic, very emotional story And Shadow of the Colossus, as far as I'm concerned, bang for your buck wise on the PlayStation 2, is this absolutely untouchable piece of art that, like I said, I've purchased twice. I owned it on my PlayStation 2. I now have it on my PlayStation 4.
I just bought it. I just ordered it on Amazon.
Oh, dude, there's one.
I just got it for free last month with PlayStation 4.
Yeah, there's one additional thing on the PlayStation 4 where hidden throughout the game, there's a bunch of these little spots that are just glowing yellow. They're hard as shit to find. And you find them and you pray at them like at the save points in the game. And there's actually an extra Colossus in the PlayStation 4 version. But it's just gorgeous. Like I said, exactly like I said with Eco, if there was ever anybody in this world that wants to attempt the foolish debate with me that video games are not art, then this game is all you need to shut that down. 100%. This game is beautiful. I've said on here before, it's not an attempt to seem manly. I'm not a crier. I will always very willingly admit to you when something makes me cry. I'm just not a crier. It's not my thing. The end of Shadow of the Colossus made me openly weep. Even when I finished it again recently on my PlayStation 4, I wept. And it's not like single tear rolling down my cheek thing, like I'm a mess and I need 30 minutes to recover from this. Like, it's just incredible. And I know a couple of you guys had it as honorable mention, so I can only hope that you finished it and you got the full scope of how absolutely amazing this game is. But Shadow of the Colossus, when it comes to PlayStation 2 games, is absolutely untouchable to me.
You kind of said everything. Like, it's art. It's not a video game. It's art.
Yeah.
I got it. I downloaded it. I haven't played it yet on the PlayStation 4, but I can just imagine how it looks on the PlayStation 4 as compared to. It looked beautiful on the PS2. So I can just imagine how on a 4K TV with PS4.
It's not just a remaster; it's a ground up rebuild.
Okay, so it's like a Final Fantasy VII, what they did with Final Fantasy VII.
Right, but the gameplay is exactly the same.
Right. Okay. No, it's an amazing pick. I love that. It was an honorable mention for me. I fucking love that game.
I've never played it, and I was super late to even finding out about this game. And the first reason I heard about this game was from watching the Adam Sandler movie Rain on Me, something like that. Super sad movie that he did with Don Cheadle, and like he's going through Rain Over Me, and he's going through postpartum depression because his family was killed in 9/11 towers, and he literally all he does is play this fucking game, and then he gets Don Cheadle to get hooked on the game, and Don Cheadle comes in, he's like, hey, he goes, oh, why don't you play? And Don Cheadle's like, fine, I don't have an addictive personality. So it's not gonna make it like, and he literally like they cut to like 3 days later, and Don Cheadle all he's doing is fucking playing this game, and I was like, what fucking game is that? Like, and I just kept, so now I kept hearing about it, but it was way after the PS2 had come out. It was already when PS3 was in its full swing, and so I was way late to this game. I never played it, but I just bought it, so it'd be nice. Hopefully,
no pressure.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's incredible. Like I said, it's literally only boss fights. It's just get on your horse, go to the next boss fight. You got to try to find it. Then when you do, figure out how to kill that boss, go back to the temple, and you just do that over and over again. And like I said, it doesn't seem like that's going to stack up, but it really, really does. And because every boss has to be fought uniquely.
And the environment's just beautiful.
Oh my God, it's gorgeous.
I look forward to it. All right. So that is the bonus number one. Jeff's number one was the same as David, which is Metal Gear Solid Snake Eyes. And my number one is God of War 2. So, which is my Jeff's number two. Beautiful game. This is another one where, just like Hitman franchise, I found out and played God of War 2 before ever knowing of God of War existed. So when I got into God of War 2, I was like, this game is amazing. Another rental. And I was like, I'm not giving this shit back until I fucking beat it. And I did, and it was fantastic. And then I was like, I'm going to play the original one. And it's funny because when you start playing the original one, you go, oh, that's how he gets the fucking hammer. That makes sense. That totally makes sense. Oh, that's why he's white all over. God, fuck, that makes sense. All right, like it's just all
It's
these
not
things.
vitamin D.
Yeah, it's not like it's not a lack of vitamin C. So I just thought all these things were it was I thought it was a fun way to play the game inadvertently. Obviously, it's like the way Jeff was watching Lethal Weapon movies recently. Like I didn't mean for it to happen, but it just happened, and it turned out great.
Same.
It's like all these battles that you hear about in part 2, you actually get to play through and beat in part 1, and I thought they were fantastic. The one in part 1 was great. I thought it was a grand scale too. Part 2 just up that level, and I thought it was a lot of fun. People clown on it. Their criticism of it is that it's a button smasher, but my rebuttal to that is not everything works every single time, and then you got to pick, and then especially for part 2 where you pick different weapons, and different weapons definitely make you like, oh no, this boss, you're not. I mean, if you want to go with the fucking blades, you could do it, but you're not. It's gonna be way harder. Just go with the fucking hammer, and then you have all these different strategies, and then there are points where it's all fucking literally just puzzles where you just have to, like, in order to get across the river, just to give a lack of a fucking better example, you have to like turn this statue this way and then line up this fucking light with this eye of a fucking whatever and like it's really fucking different. At least for me, it became really difficult at points where I was like, what the fuck how am I doing, like what do I gotta do here? I'm running into a brick wall, I don't know what the fuck to do. And then when you finally it's like Uncharted. It's like Uncharted before Uncharted, where you go, oh, there's some parts where it's just a lot of fighting, but then it gets to a point where there are puzzles and you got to figure that shit out. And I thought it was a fantastic blend.
So there was a few things that I put in the back of my head that DeBona said and that David said that I wanted to counteract when I knew it was your number one. So, and I know you shook your head, DeBona, when he kind of said about the different weapons, where you had mentioned about Devil May Cry having a little more, ability to do different things. I agree with you. But in this game, you could actually switch between the weapons in the middle of combos. So it did add more of a finesse to it because you could flip around, and they made it pretty seamlessly that you could flip around and just not be swinging the Blades of Chaos or the Blades of Athena as they are in part 2, like nonstop. Like you could actually mix it up, get the Blade of Olympus, maybe get the hammer. You could do it. You're right that for the most part it's that, but there is that little bit of mixing that you could do.
Yeah.
Dave, but when you were talking about the story, you're right that the story in part 1, it's really compelling. He loses his wife and daughter, has their ashes on them, and is going after revenge. The thing that part 2 did, though, is that there's a point in the game where he could have gone back in time to save his wife and child.
Mm-hmm.
But he said, but you see at that point, he doesn't care about his wife and child. He will just enjoys revenge because he chooses to go back to stop Zeus from killing him so he could kill Zeus, as opposed to using his time travel ability to go back in time to save his kids.
I disagree. I disagree with your analysis of...
Oh, and the internet.
Oh, here it comes.
By the way, this is like a common thing around on the internet when I was looking it up before today.
Yeah, there's Carol Baskins killed her husband, and fucking and Kratos doesn't care about his wife and kid. This is our common knowledge. I don't know if you're fucking aware of that.
I
also don't think that she killed her husband.
Excuse me?
He just fucked off to Costa Rica, right? Got a couple
All
million.
you gotta do is put sardines on him. That's it, and then
he got millions of dollars in a whore in Costa Rica. What's he care about Carol Baskin anymore for?
So go ahead, Dave. Go ahead.
I mean, if this is something that the game designers have come out and said explicitly.
No. I'm saying the internet. That's been a common kind of complaint that they're like, well, why didn't he just go back and save his wife and kids, which would have stopped this entire thing from starting?
Okay, well, see, my analysis of it is the whole reason why he's going on this, revenge in part 2 is because the gods tell him, we will not take away your your guilt. We can't take away your nightmare. We can't take away the memory of all of this. So even if he goes back in time to do that and he saves them, he's still going to be living with what he had done to them before he went back to save them. That's
but
not
if
going
he saved them, doesn't that counteract his, because he's fixed what he's been living with. So if the one thing that's your demon is fixed, that's not your demon anymore because you fixed your mistake.
But he still will have in his memories killed them at one point. Even if they're still alive, he's still living with the memory of cutting down his wife and son.
But then he's also living with the memory that he had the opportunity to reverse what he did and that one failure that he had and fix it.
To his
and he
defense,
didn't choose it.
To his defense, I don't think he did it because he was. I think he was gonna do it, but then he got Barry Allen told him, "Listen, you fuck with this timeline, and it's really gonna just throw everything off, and you never know how everything's gonna go back." He kind of listened. No, I'm with you, man. I look. I just think it's a simple plot hole. I just think it's a simple like he was so caught up with vengeance that he was like, "I'm gonna go back to kill Zeus." But I love the fact that he was a god, and then Zeus fucking betrayed him, killed him, sent him back sent him down to the underworld. He had to go fucking see. Then he meets he
meets Perseus.
Gaia?
He meets
Which one is the one where you get into it with Mercury and he makes you like race across the statue? Is that one or two?
I think that's
or Hermes, Mercury.
Oh,
well,
Hermes.
no, because I know you deal with Icarus, Perseus. I forgot the name of the. Dave, you might know this. The person that was known to kill the Minotaur. The Greek.
Is it a Perseus?
You meet him.
Theseus.
No.
Theseus killed the Minotaur.
Yeah,
you meet Theseus. Like I don't remember Hermes in part
so maybe
two.
Maybe it's one then where like you actually like you meet Hermes and like he starts like bouncing across these statues and there's actually this really cool like quick time event where you've got to hit buttons in a certain sequence as the statue falls to beat him across. Anyway.
Now the thing with this game is that it does add extra elements gameplay wise. You're able to swing on things which you couldn't do in part one.
Mm-hmm.
You get extra executions from in the game in this one than that from the other game. You get new magic abilities. You get the same ones because in the first game you kill Medusa, you get her head. In this one, it was like her sister, I think, and you still cut her head off, and you still get the same power you had with Medusa. But they explain that no, you still don't have Medusa's head; it's somebody else. The opening scene of this game is fucking fantastic, and it's brilliant what the creators did because you're fully God powered at the beginning of this game.
Yeah,
you
that
have
was really
all the
cool.
abilities that you're gonna eventually get in the game, and they take it away from you because when the Colossus of Rhodes is brought to life by Zeus, you have to power the sword with all of your God power to be able to get it and wield it. So that's the way that they take it away from you.
My favorite video game trope of all time is the how are we going to make them start at square one even though they're using a character that they just maxed out in the last one.
Right.
Like the lengths that they will go to be like, no, you're the same guy who was able to kill Greek gods in the first one, but
but
you don't have all those powers anymore.
And one of the funniest scenes to me in probably video games takes place right after that part when you defeat the Colossus. That he starts yelling at the gods and he's like, "Is this all you have?" Like, I forgot what he exactly said.
He said, "Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Isn't this why you are here? Are you not entertained?"
You just see behind him. You just see behind him the Colossus's arm come up, and it just smushes him.
Yeah,
like comedically, he's acting all badass, cursing the gods, yelling at them, and you just see the hand just go, and it's like Looney Tunes style, like he's pinned underneath him and crawls out. And he's like, "Fuck."
One more God of War question: was it 2 or 3 where you could have the threesome if you played your cards right?
That was one.
That was the first one.
No, that was multiple. You could do it in both. You could do it in multiple one, and then one of them you fucking Aphrodite. At one point, I think that was part 2 that you fuck Aphrodite.
That's part 2, I think.
Yeah, and the threesome at the beginning of part 1.
Yeah, and then
after the whole ship thing where you're fighting off the Kraken or whatever it was, you get on another ship to take you to Athens.
Okay.
And then it's right there that you can do it.
Yeah.
There we go.
But there's
And
like
then one, I know I've been talking a lot about this game, and this is Neri's number one, and I apologize.
I love it.
So another thing you get in this game that you don't get in one is that you really do see how much Kratos cares about his fellow Spartans. Because you have that one lone Spartan that he genuinely, like, you can genuinely see concern and care for that one Spartan. And later on in the game, spoiler alert, he ends up stabbing him and killing him, not knowing he's fighting him. And he feels guilt and pain for having killed one of his fellow Spartans. So it shows you a side of Kratos that it's not this, and I say selfish in the sense of he has his one goal, he has his one idea in mind. He actually cares for somebody else, and and I mean, the game visually is beautiful. Anything you see in the background, eventually in the game, you're going to go to it.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see these massive things in the back, and eventually you're going to end up going to that place and having some kind of involvement in there. I just think God of War, I love God of War 1, but I just think God of War 2 takes, I liked the story more in 2 just because it was a whole, like you said, it was, Dave, like you had mentioned, it was kind of like a lot of different characters as opposed to that one general story, but that one general event story is amazing. But I just love I'm fan service. So, oh my God, that's Perseus. Oh my God, that's so and so. Oh my God, that's so and so. Oh, that's cool.
I'm fan service.
Like, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna fucking lie to you. I'm fan service. You're like, oh shit, look, that's so and so. And then I love that everybody has their own fucking intentions of trying to find the fates.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to find the fates, and everybody has their own reason. The fucking barbarian that killed him he runs into him in this game, and he has his own reason. He's like, I'm dead. And I want to do what I can to fucking get Kratos again. Like, I want to fuck with Kratos. Like, everybody has their own reasons to go after the fates in this one. So it's not just Kratos. You realize that all these people have the same goal that Kratos is, of ultimately finding the fates and doing what you need to do with the fates to get what you want. And then the fate fights, you have the 3 different fates that you fight. Mm-hmm. That terrifying one with the nipples out. Like, it's weird. I love the game. I mean, I just love Metal Gear Solid 3 more, but it's my number 2. I think God of War is a fun action game.
It's my favorite. It's my favorite game franchise of all time. I think every game gets better than the previous one, with the exception of like with the exception of like the there's like PlayStation Vita games or ones that were just, you know what I mean? I'm talking about the main games, God of War 1, God of War 2, God of War 3, Ascension, and then the new God of War on the PlayStation 4 was a fucking masterpiece. If there's anything,
I said all of that, stunning. And I spoke of all of that, and God of War for PlayStation 4 is my favorite one.
Yeah,
like, this isn't even my favorite game in the series.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. And I think that's a good sign. That's a good sign where it's like it just gets better and better. I'm all for it, man. Yeah. So that's that. So our number ones were Metal Gear Solid, Snake Eater, Shadow of the Colossus, Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater, and God of War 2. So our final mountain.
We have our mountain.
No,
I think
we're missing
mountain
one.
Is made.
We're missing one.
No, we're not.
Final Fantasy.
God of War 2, God of War 2,
Final
GTA
Fantasy.
Vice City, Metal Gear, Snake Eater, and Final Fantasy X.
Yeah, so we're not missing one.
So we're not missing one.
I didn't say we were missing one. I said...
Yeah, you did.
Yes, you did. You literally just said we were missing one.
The listeners will not hear that, so you guys are wrong. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Let's be real. You're not going to edit. So...
so there goes that.
The listeners are probably going to be listening.
I legit forgot about Final Fantasy X, so I was like, oh shit, that is true. All right, so that's our final mountain. God of War 2, GTA Vice City, Metal Gear Snake Eater, and Final Fantasy X. So that is our final mountain. That's good, fellas.
I like it.
I'm done.
I'm not mad at it.
Yeah,
I think we got a little bit of everything in that mountain.
Yeah, right. Like, a little.
We got really good games, and then we got Final Fantasy X. So I think we got a little bit of everything. A little bit of everything.
There it is.
The JRPG built and sustained the PlayStation 2. The JRPG is the reason the PlayStation 2 lasted as long as it did.
Yeah.
You can't argue that a JRPG deserves a point on this mountain.
Sure.
Engaged, Bono.
Also, like, there's a lot of movies that for its time. That's what you just gave me. You gave me a for its time. This was pivotal to
No, I didn't, because Final Fantasy X holds up. They just remastered it.
Yeah, that's what they had to do. They had to remaster it because they're like, this shit sucked. Let's master it again because this shit sucked.
Didn't they remaster God of War?
It's the same goddamn game, and they also remastered God of War and the Uncharted. So you going to claim they weren't incredible?
Uncharted's all right. It's all right.
Oh, fuck you.
Get out of here.
I don't even believe that. I love Uncharted. I was like, even when I said it, I was like, oh, look, I know I'm joking, but fuck, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I apologize to myself. I'm like, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. I've been drinking.
By the way, Uncharted 4 is free this month with PlayStation Plus.
And the first 3 were free a couple months ago. So
I got those too.
All Uncharted
free.
I've had them on disc. I've owned each of them. The last one I didn't get though. The one with his daughter, right? Is that the one?
Yeah.
That's the one that's free now.
I never played. That's the one I didn't play. That's the one I haven't played yet.
Good.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna get.
I bought it, but then I traded it in after I beat it like 3 times, and then now I have it again.
Yeah.
So.
All right, man. Well, thank you guys for checking us out. Make sure you check out the other podcasts on the Geek Bro Network. That includes What You Got, which is Daniel DeBono's other podcast. It's a YouTube series that can be found on either YouTube or by going to geekbro.net. Check out the other podcast that Jeff is on, which includes The Layer and the What's Up Bro, affectionately called Woo Bro. And check out the other ones such as Better Let Me Tell You, Comedy Fitness, Childlike at Best with Mike Valdez. So make sure you guys check that out at geekbro.net. All fantastic podcasts. We got you covered, man. Thank you guys. That's how lists are made.